actually reading it.
Real teachers. Yeah.
Okay, so hopefully it will be.
This meeting of the Las Cruces School Board is now called to order. Today is Tuesday, April 17th, my wife's birthday. And Mr. Castro, will you please take roll?
Mr. Frank?
Here.
Ms. Dowland?
Here.
Ms. Flores?
Here.
Mr. Jaramillo?
I am here.
And I'm here.
Thank you, Mr. Castro. And I would like to welcome our student advisor, Max. Looking forward.
Thomas.
Sorry. You could have corrected me earlier. So at this time, I think it's time to pledge allegiance. Please all rise. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Juro lealtad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y de la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos.
Thank you.
I'm getting more each week, each time.
I want to see the agenda before we decide.
So at this time, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of February 20th, 2018, regular meeting, February 23rd, 2018, board retreat, March 6th, 2018, closed executive session, March 6th, 2018, work session, and March 13, 2018, closed executive session.
So moved.
A second.
To bring it up.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This motion carries.
Aye. Sorry, late.
We were talking. It carries even more now. Were there any objections?
No.
Okay, that was a unanimous decision. The next step is I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
Okay, it was moved by Senora and
No.
second.
I'll second it. Oh,
Okay.
No, I have a question.
Oh.
I would like to, and I was going to mention this to you, and I'm sorry, President Frank, I didn't. I was going to see if we could, I don't know if there are students here from Oñate for the bilingual seal chords. Are you here? Okay, then I'm going to request that we change this item on the agenda. I believe it's 6A4,
discussion and action on the presentation of syllabic chords to graduates with bilingual seal. If we could move it up under the superintendent's report so that the students don't have to wait until the very end of the meeting. And so I'm proposing that we amend the agenda.
And I'll make a motion to accept the agenda with the amendment as amended.
I second.
Okay, all in favor of approving the amended agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, this is what we will do then.
And Mr. President, if I may, I'm going to look to Dr. Lozano and Dr. Miller-Tomlinson, so if we'll be ready and a little earlier than we had anticipated for our discussion. Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. President.
The next step is to discuss our consent agenda items. I will entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items for A1, donation of music studio equipment for Centennial and Oñate High Schools. VC1, student out-of-state travel. VD2, approval of budget adjustment requests. VD3, approval of disposal of property. VD4, approval of March vendor payments. VE1, approval of contracted food service between Las Cruces Public Schools and Doña Ana County Head Start. Las Cruces Catholic Schools, Gym Magic, La Academia Dolores Huerto, and Family and Youth Incorporated for the 2018-19 school year. And VE2, approval of contract between Las Cruces Public Schools and Families and Youth Inc. for the 2018 summer food service program.
I so move.
Thank you. Second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? No opposition? This also is passed. I am now going to report on the closed executive session. Okay, the board met in closed executive session on April 17th, 2018, from 5:10 p.m. to 6:29 p.m. to discuss A, limited personnel matters as permitted under Section 10-15-H2, specifically for the superintendent to update the board regarding the investigations of certified and classified employees by the superintendent and inform the board of specific employee movements. And B, discussion with legal counsel to update the board regarding threatened litigation as permitted under Section 10-15-1H7 of the New Mexico Open Meetings Act, specifically the status of HRD number 17-11-29-0343 EEOC number 39B-2018-00214, and C, collective bargaining strategies preliminary to bargaining negotiations as permitted under Section 10-15-1H5 of the New Mexico Open Meetings Act. I'm not going to repeat that. Okay, and so with all these preliminary things done, we are now ready to move to recognitions, and I think I'm turning it over to the superintendent.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, Madam Vice President, members of the board, and to the members of our audience. It's going to be our honor this evening to recognize several individuals, and I'm going to call forward Bridget Ziegelhofer, and she's going to lead us through the recognition ceremony. And if I may, we're going to ask the board to join us on the stage as we shake hands of our recipients this evening.
While you're doing that, Mr. President, Mr. Superintendent, members of the board, this evening we have a special guest with us. I'd like to introduce to you Senior Pastor Dennis Diaz with Mesilla Park Community Church. Mr. Diaz and his parishioners run a very special program that touches the hearts of some of our families and our children. If the board will remember, we participated last year. We went to the church that had newly opened on El Paseo, and we participated in their Souls for Souls program. Many of us know how important a new pair of shoes is, and the feeling and the confidence that it gives, not only to us adults when we put on a new pair of shoes, but to children who have to face their peers every day with sometimes torn and tattered shoes. So the gift of a new pair of shoes is just the words cannot express how important it is. And so I am very pleased to bring before you today Mesilla Park Community Church, and I'd like to give Senior Pastor a moment just to tell you about the program.
Well, thank you very much. It's actually our honor. Don't really need this because it is our honor. It's our blessing to be able to serve the children in our schools. And we just do it because we want to make a difference in our city, and we especially want to make a difference in the families and to help these children out. And so thank you for letting us meet that need. We appreciate that. We get the bigger blessing. So thank you very much.
So Senior Pastor, I'm going to ask that you step forward and join the board. And as you do that, I'm going to announce that with this year's event, they have exceeded 5,000 pairs of new shoes to our students. And for that, we do claim you as a partner in education, and we'd like to present you with a little gift.
Yeah, a little bit. There we go. Yeah, there we go. Okay.
Well,
You just get one more. just to make sure. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, and Mr. Superintendent. We have several people and groups that we would like to recognize this evening, which is, for me, the greatest part of the board meeting, just because we get to honor those people who are in our schools. So if you'll bear with me, and recipients, when you come up, we will give you all an opportunity also to take picture with the board, and if you have a family member with a camera or whatever, stay there so that we can get the pictures taken. All right. First, I would like to invite Carrie Aguilera and Efrain Torres to please come up to the podium. All right, and if you all want to stand with the board while I just read what you did. So this recognition comes from a parent who sent us an email wanting to recognize these two individuals for going above and beyond the call of duty to assist a student. I'm going to describe to you a little bit. I'm going to quote from the mother's email. So first of all, on March 15th, a fourth grade student accidentally threw away her orthodontic retainer with her lunch tray. So the email states, after school, I spoke with interim vice principal Carrie Aguilera and explained my situation. Much to my surprise, Ms. Aguilera happily asked if she could help dig through the dumpster to find the lost retainer. I was taken aback. As I looked inside the dumpster, I saw over 12 trash bags of stinky, smelly old lunch. A custodian, Efrain Torres, responded to a call for assistance over the radio. He arrived to the dumpster with gloves and trash bags to use as we sifted through the trash. And luckily, the retainer was found. Sophia's mom continued, I wanted to take a minute to make you aware of the kind act of service demonstrated by these two Highland employees. My daughter will always remember their kindness. The enormity of the task did not faze them as they showed service and love to a stranger like me. Thank you again, Ms. Aguilera and Mr. Torres, for your dedication to our students. And I believe that Sophia and her mom came this evening to show their appreciation as well. So if they would like to come up and join us.
Oh, yeah, perfect. You want to just scoot in a little bit, right? Okay, okay. Smile. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
That's all other duties as assigned, right? All right, continuing our recognition this evening, we would like to take a minute to recognize the Las Cruces High School HOSA Future Professionals team. This team of outstanding students and their advisors have accomplished many things since the chapter was chartered in 2014. And HOSA is students who are going to go on with health occupations. They have consistently hosted a wide variety of community service activities, and most recently they won a total of 25 gold medals, 2 silver medals, 3 bronze medals at the New Mexico State Leadership Conference. In addition, most of the students qualified for the International Leadership Conference, which will take place this June in Dallas, Texas. We invite you to come forward, and we congratulate you on a job well done.
Sandy, do you want to come up here? Congratulations.
Another row kind of in front. Okay.
Go help. And after Paul's pictures, you all stay put because I'm sure you all have families that want to take pictures.
Could you scoot in just a little bit?
Are we good? Where's the teacher? Are we good?
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Well, okay, thank you.
All right. Again, congratulations to the Las Cruces High School HOSA team. Next, I would like to invite Christina Martos to come up to the podium. Christina is a Lynn Middle School student who is a two-time school spelling bee champion who was recently chosen by Scripps to represent Lynn at the Scripps National Spelling Bee under a brand new program called RSVB. This program was created to help foster literacy and spelling, particularly in underrepresented states at the National Bee. As part of the program, Scripps added an additional 225 slots for students who won their school bees, and Christina was chosen from well over 700 applicants nationwide. Congratulations and best of luck at the National Bee.
Ms. Weinberg, are you gonna come up with this? Come on up.
Yeah, you want to move forward? And if you could open the certificate, that would be perfect. I don't know if you want to step down in between Maury and Terry. Okay. Sure, yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you. Oh.
Oh, sure. Did you want to say a word? All right, go ahead.
Hello everyone, so I would like to thank everyone who supported me. I would love to thank the LCPS School District, Dr. Ewing, and the NEA for supporting me, and I would love to thank my chess coach, Will Barella, and Mrs. Lisa Weinbaum, my social studies teacher, and my wonderful family, and Lynn Middle School.
Very well said. We wish you lots of luck. All right. Next, we've still got a few groups left, which is a good thing. I would like to invite members of the Las Cruces High School Girls Swimming Relay Team. Please come up to the stage. Yes, we do have some. I do have. All right, you're going to be the center of the picture. I'll let you. I forgot to read your recognition. That's why you're looking at me. Sorry. I know. I'm sorry. Oh, these amazing athletes recently won the state title in the 200-yard freestyle and third place in the 400-yard freestyle relay. They did all this while maintaining combined GPA of 4.0. With that being said, one of these students would like to make a brief statement before we take the picture.
Good evening, Las Cruces Public Schools, Board of Directors, and personnel, Las Cruces families, friends, and fellow Bulldogs. My name is Jacqueline Cervantes Vanderloot. I am both humbled and honored to be given the opportunity to speak on behalf of our swim team and specifically our relay, the 2018 Girls 200 Freestyle State Champions, consisting of Sierra Ortiz, Sarah Gormley, myself, and Susan Harding, who was unable to be with us tonight. We want to thank our coaches, high school coaches, Mo Madero and Adrian Law, as well as our club coaches from Wild West Aquatics and LCAT. Because of the collaborative efforts amongst all the coaching staff, we were able to achieve something that Las Cruces High School and Las Cruces has not achieved in over 15 years, winning a first place medal for this relay. In addition, we would like to thank our former high school athletic director, Mr. Campos, and Mr. Viramontes, the LCPS athletic director, for their continued extra efforts with our swim team. And we would especially like to thank our Bulldog team, parents, family, supporters, and staff, for they were instrumental to our success. And thank you, LCPS board, again for this opportunity and recognition to our swim team.
Senora Flores. I think everyone's. Yeah, we're good. Great, thank you. Did you have any other? One more.
Congratulations, girls. It's a great accomplishment. And to be able to get up here and address the audience as a teenager is also an excellent accomplishment. All right. For our final recognition this evening, I'm going to let you all stand right there while I read it, and then we'll let you come up front, okay? We are recognizing members of the Oñate High School co-ed cheerleading team. This group of student athletes recently won the state cheerleading championship. This is the second time in 4 years that the team has won the title. As part of the co-ed cheerleading program at Oñate, this team of 28 athletes welcomes any students who want to participate in the program and join this fine squad. Congratulations and kudos to you all on a job well done. Please come forward.
That's looking good. I'm gonna get one more. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, we're good.
So Mr. Viramontes just told me that ever since this cheerleading was recognized as a sport, that a Las Cruces school has won every year the state championships. Congratulations. All right, and thank you for staying there. I do have another, we did have one of our teachers, Ms. Julie Janeka, on the agenda, but she wasn't able to be here, so we'll recognize her at a future meeting. But last but not least, I would like to invite Dama Dean to please come up to the stage. Ms. Dean is a special education teacher at Tombaugh Elementary, who was recently named the Hearts of Autism Teacher of the Year. She was selected for this prestigious award based on her contributions to the field of education for those affected by autism and for her support in furthering the mission of the Hearts for Autism Fund. Congratulations, and thank you for helping to support our students at Tombaugh Elementary.
Can you hold open the certificate? Yeah, that works great. Okay. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, we're good. Thank you.
And Mr. Price.
Well, that really is my favorite part of every meeting. We're now going to move on to public input. But before we move to public input, I would like to remind our audience of the board's procedure for handling public comment, which are found in Board Policy BEDH and on the sign-up card. Each speaker must complete a sign-up card prior to speaking. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per individual speaker and 5 minutes for each group spokesperson. The board welcomes public input. The board does not prohibit public criticism or comment upon personnel matters. However, any person making public comments shall be solely responsible for the content of his or her comments. The board neither adopts nor assumes responsibility for any comments made by individuals during the public input section of the board meeting. So with that said, I'm going to call April Ibarra to the podium. And
Oh, these are the kids.
speaking as,
Oh, these are the Oñate.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, so, Mr. President, I think, let me make sure I'm correct. Are you the Oñate students?
Yeah.
So, Mr. President, I respectfully ask that we move them from public comment to the superintendent's report so that they wouldn't be under the time limits of public comment. We have listed this as an agenda item, so I'm looking to legal counsel. I think we're fine with our legal statute. So with permission, if you could hold on just another minute, we're going to let you present under my name and it'll give us a little more time.
that sounds like a pretty good idea.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, that means that we're now going to call Jackie Drona to the podium.
Is it?
So before we begin, I just want to clarify, Mr. President, are we doing a group presentation?
Well, it's on behalf of our organization, on behalf of one of our guardians.
So let me ask the president, since it is a group presentation, if they may have 5 minutes instead of 3?
I think that sounds appropriate.
So if you need the time, we built some time in for you.
Thank you.
All right, so timekeeper, 5 minutes instead of. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for giving us the opportunity to be here. We're here on behalf of one of our little guardians. We're part of the motorcycle organization, Guardians of the Children. We're an advocacy group for physically and sexually abused children. We handle cases where kids are being bullied. We currently have a little guardian in our organization who attends a local middle school and has had current problems with being bullied. And it's been a frequent situation. Mom has gone to the vice principal on multiple occasions. Unfortunately, things haven't made it to the principal at this point. We did do a escort of our little guardian to school about a week and a half ago. We took her to school. I spoke with the principal at the school. He had no idea what was going on. And for us, that seems to be a concern, that this child has already gone through a traumatic experience outside of school and is continuously being bullied in school.
Basically, our question is what are the steps that we need to take?
Yeah, what are the steps that we need to take as far as being able to assist our kids that are in our organization, escorting them to class, maybe. We're not here to intimidate anybody, and we're not here to make the kids of the schools feel intimidated. Our thing is that a lot of times these kids are told that they're nobody, they're nothing, when they're bullied, that no one cares for them, and it's quite the opposite. Our organization cares a lot, not only for the kids in our organization, but for the kids outside. We've spent the past year as an organization putting a lot of work in this community. And we're just looking for the ability to step on the school grounds and to escort a kid to their first class, whether it be, they're in middle school or an elementary student, and quite frankly, we're looking to work with the school district as well. And we want to know the proper steps and how we can go about that. We're willing to do educational things, whether it be anti-bullying or whatever the school district would like to have us attend or be a part of. We're willing to do that. And that's what we're here for today is just, like I said, we had one of our little members that continuously has a problem with bullying, and it's a concern. And, we've gotten to know this individual and this child, and it hurts to see her go through what she's going through. And we want to know what the proper steps that we can do with not only her school, but all the schools in the district that maybe we can lend a hand to.
So, it's not our policy to comment on public input, but I can tell you that, this kind of stuff is stuff that we take very seriously. So I'm thinking that you need to connect with somebody at this meeting that can give you the answers that you deserve to get. So I'm going to turn that over to the superintendent, who knows more about the procedures that would be followed.
Thank you, Mr. President and Madam Vice President, members of the board. So first, just thank you for having the courage to come and talk to us tonight. We need to hear more information. And I'm going to surprise my staff, but believe it or not, I used to be a motorcycle rider, so I will come ride with you one day.
You're more than welcome.
I might need a lesson, and I might need extra air in the tires, but I'm going to ride with you. So we take this very seriously, and anytime we hear that a child is in danger or being bullied or facing any type of retaliation or retribution, that's going to be very serious for us. So I'm going to look to the back of the room and see if I can get one of our assistant superintendents. So Christina, can you help me with this one? So Christina, stand up so they can see who you are. So Christina is one of our assistant superintendents. She's going to meet with you and just take some general information, and then we're going to set up a meeting with you.
Okay.
And Christina will start the process. Her field is really information technology, so you're going to end up in a different office, but for now, I think she's the easiest solution. Plus, she's going to type the best report and give it to me very quickly. So, Christina, will you help us out on this one? We'll meet with you. We'll work on what your requirements are, what your recommendation is. We'll then confer with legal counsel, and then we'll actually come back in front of the board and inform the board of what we're legally allowed to do and what we are offering to do with you. And we encourage you to continue dialogue with us. This is very important to us, too.
Yes.
So, Christina, if you'll meet with the group. Is that my time?
That's to get the bikers out of here.
If you'll meet with the group and just get some information, we will get back in touch with you. And thank you for what you do.
Appreciate you. Thank you for the time.
It's very nice.
So I didn't know you rode.
I used to have a motorcycle.
So I still have that designation on my driver's license.
I used to ride a motorcycle before I was out of elementary school. I had a motorcycle.
My goodness.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Okay.
I just sold mine.
Yeah, okay, so
Just sold mine.
Okay.
Mr. Frank.
And John Novella?
Good evening, Superintendent Ewing, board members. My name is John Novello. I'm an elementary teacher over at Highland Elementary. I have sent each of you a document outlining a proposal to increase school safety. I hope, given the time that you've had a chance to read through some of the recommendations that are contained in it. Following a professional development at my school site and a discussion with Todd Gregory and Sean Barham, I also gave the outline to them for their feedback. Gone through several revisions and tried to cut it down as much as I could. I had started off with far too many pages. Recognizing that many of the security issues that our schools face are already identified by the school district, starting to be addressed. My hope is that we can modify our school budgets at the state level and then filter that down into the district so that we can start making some of these changes more readily effective. I'm willing to work with our school sites as safety committees, anyone here, the community, in researching different options, finding out their actual cost, and creating invoice for the schools, as they would have to be individual depending on the school site. I know that I couldn't read out all of the recommendations here tonight, so if anyone is willing to read through, go over any of those, please send me a message and I will be happy to contact you. Look forward to working with you on that, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That email was incredibly detailed, had many, many really good ideas that, we will certainly take seriously. Thank you. So, and now we're ready for the superintendent's report.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, Madam Vice President, and members of the board, before I begin my report, Mr. President, I would like to just ask for a point of personal privilege. And if you will grant that, I would like to ask you and Senora Flores to step to the front of the podium.
I wonder what this is about.
I don't know. We do as we're told.
Okay, so to the members of our audience, and then I'll show our board. Many of you know Senora Flores was the president of the board for 3 continuous years, which is unheard of in this day and time. And so when we had the transition, we thought, what can we do to recognize her 3 years of service as a board president, in addition to her, help me, 8 years, 9 years of service?
I'm on my 10th
Your 10th year of service on the board. So on behalf of the administration, with the approval of the president and the board, we would like to present to Senora Maria Flores a plaque indicating that she was the Las Cruces Public Schools Board of Education president from March 2015 through March 2018. And we thank you for your service and president.
best board to be on,
Great.
and best superintendent to work. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Yeah, so, I mean, the reason I really wanted to be superintendent was so that I can check sports scores. So, yeah, I wanted to be board president because Senora would not let me check sports scores on the days, and I figured if I'm president, you know, how's she going to stop me? But, you know, I wish she were giving this award to herself because she could capture the words, you know, that I would like to say, the feelings that I have for the high regard that I have for her, and the tremendous passion that she brought to this job. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, and we have more.
Oh, there's more?
Mr. President and Superintendent Ewan, members of the board, it is an honor and a privilege to be a part of a body that honors and recognizes Maria Flores for her many accomplishments as a member of the board and as our leader. In times of trial and tribulation across our country, she is a shining star in our community. Facing difficult challenges within our district, the state, and federal levels, she nevertheless accepted her duties of leader and enrolled with courage and class. Her accomplishments are many, including helping change our district leadership's dynamic for the better. And milestones like the Student Advisory Committee, which she helped to get started. Most of all, her character as a mother, community activist, a person of high ideals. She cast a role as a model for our children, and certainly she had a very high level of professionalism. I applaud you. Thank you for your service.
All I can say, it's an honor to work with these people that you see. Love them all. Thank you very much.
President Frank, you just gave Senora Flores a gavel, so don't check your sports scores.
I'm going to use it.
Hopefully it's glued there really tight.
It is.
Mr. Jaramillo, I hope you realize the Phillies have a better record than the Dodgers right now. Okay. Mr. Superintendent.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, Madam Vice President, President Emerita
Yes.
Flores, and members of the board. Now, if you remember, we changed the agenda, and so at this time, I'm going to call on our students and our advisor from Oñate High School to, if you would come forward, and I'm also going to ask Dr. Lozano, are you helping guide the conversation as well? And Dr. Wendy Miller Tomlinson. So I think first, do we want to ask our students, do you want to speak first, and then we'll let the teachers talk after you? So would you want to start the program? So these are students from Oñate High School, and they have a proposal that they would like to bring to the board. And we would like to listen to your proposal and listen to our teachers and then have some dialogue. So.
Right. Es un poquito nerviosa, así que.
Introduce themselves.
Would you introduce yourselves, just your first name?
All right. Good evening, everyone. President Frank, school board members, and Superintendent Ewing. My name is Abril Ibarra, and these are my friends. Vinieron a hacerme support.
My name is Fatima Torres. I'm on the Arañate High School. My name is Crystal Ramirez. I'm also senior at Arañate High School. My name is Abril Casillas. I'm also senior at Arañate High School.
Mi nombre es Byron Romero, and I'm a student of Oñate High School.
So I'd like to advocate for future bilingual students. The State Seal of Biliteracy is an award given by school district or state in recognition of students who have studied and attained proficiency in 2 or more languages by high school graduation. So our objective this morning is that we are requesting to wear a sash or cord that distinguishes us as recipients of the New Mexico State Seal of Biliteracy. We would like to be recognized for attaining proficiency in 2 or more languages through our enrollment at LCPS. This request is for all LCPS New Mexico State Seal of Biliteracy recipients. So why do we want that recognition, right? Well, there are many reasons why we want to receive this sash or cord. Mostly because our effort and time, we took a lot of time and effort to complete this process, and well, thanks to that process we get to receive 3 or more college credits, which is beneficial, right? And most of us have been enrolled in bilingual programs since we were in kindergarten, so that helps a lot. And lo más importante es porque it's a representation of our language and culture. So thank you. That's it.
Right, excellent.
¿Y
Nice
tienen
job.
algunas preguntas?
Para mí está muy importante porque yo hablo español y yo hablo italiano y yo hablo latino. El mundo habla español, you know? Okay, so first, thank you for coming. I know this is not easy to stand in front of us and the TV cameras and to advocate for something you believe in. I think what we would like to do, Mr. President, with permission, some of our staff have prepared some remarks as well, and then we'll sort of talk you through what we're thinking about your request. And there's no one better to support your belief and your ideas as I look at Dr. Roberto Lozano, who is a student who grew up speaking Spanish first and then studied English. And then we're going to follow it up by probably the best English writer in the building. I have Dr. Wendy, it's no secret, do much of my writing, and I try to give her credit each time. And both of them want to echo some sentiments and some thoughts. So are you okay if we allow both of them to speak with you? And I think it would be okay if you stay there with the adults while they're talking, if that's okay with you. So Dr. Lozano, are you going first or Dr. Miller-Tomlinson?
Senior.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, and I just welcome students. We're happy that you're here. We invited you, Ms. Dahlman and I, and I just wanted to do a quick little survey. How many of you in the audience and on the board, on the dais, first language was Spanish? How many of you stand up? So look around you. We are bilingual, and I think this is important, and we're supporting your efforts in being recognized for being bilingual. Thank you.
Mr. President, members of the board, and Superintendent Ewing. First, muchísimas gracias por venir hoy. It's really an honor that the students have the courage to come up and really advocate for something that I know the board, myself, Dr. Ewing, is very passionate about. I'll take this opportunity to say that I believe this is our 3rd year in having a process for students to attain their bilingual seal. This year, we actually have 81 students receiving a bilingual seal. As you know, being bilingual means, like you stated earlier, is different languages. So when we received the request, our first inclination was to think about, we also have other languages, right? And we have students at other schools that have attained, that are going to attain this diploma. So what we're proposing is to really examine this more closely with all the high schools, get the input from principals also. Some graduation attire is sometimes could be a very controversial issue with different groups of students, etc. But we definitely do value the efforts of the students and their accomplishment. Currently, right now, what we do for students, and I don't know if you've seen them yet, is each student receives a medal with, I think the cord is in accordance to the colors of their school. But I think it's a great idea for us to look at different ways that we could really highlight the efforts of the students. So that's kind of our stance, is talking to the principals from the other high schools, getting input from other students. But as we refine the process each year, I think we've gotten better at our process, the way we identify those students that are bilingual. I think this is definitely something that needs to come to the forefront, and we really appreciate the efforts of the students to, bring light to this this issue. So, Dr. Wendy.
Well, we should have coordinated better, Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Superintendent, because he said everything I was going to say, but that's okay. I just want to, again, acknowledge the students and their hard work, and we have other students in the audience who will receive the bilingual seal as well this year at graduation. As Dr. Lozano mentioned, we do have the majority of our students that receive the bilingual biliteracy seal receive the recognition in Spanish. We also have a large number that receive the honor in French. So we should have coordinated our addition too, because my numbers are different. But we had, so over the last 2 years, we had 83 students earn the seal in Spanish, 29 in French, and then we also had 1 student in Japanese, 1 student in Chinese, and 2 students earn the recognition in German. And we had 1 student that I think earned the seal in multiple languages. So again, this is a great honor. As Dr. Lozano mentioned, they are awarded a medallion, which I think the schools have allowed them to wear, and this does warrant further investigation, because the high school graduations are unique to each high school, and we certainly want to let the schools have input over what students add to the regalia. So I'm open to any questions, and again, students, thanks for being here tonight. Great work.
Now, Dr. Miller-Tomlinson, I'm going to look. So I see 2 of the high school principals in the back of the room. I think what we'll do, there's 3 of them back here now. All right, so one more and we've got them all. These are the comprehensive high schools I'm looking at. So Mr. Montoya, as the new assistant superintendent of high schools, would you convene conversations with the 6 high schools that are actually going to have graduation? Would you look at this issue? Would you report back to us as soon as possible on what the feasibility is of the request? What would we do with the other students who have other languages other than Spanish? What type of regalia would we order for them? If the principals would be amenable to these students wearing their medals with their gown. And then students, if you are okay, I'll invite you to my office, and I have, until Dr. Lozano eats them, I have candy bars in there. And we can let Mr. Montoya give us a report of where we are and what we can do for you. I know some of you, who's a senior? So your graduation is around the corner.
Yes.
And so, Madam President and Mr. President, Madam Vice President and members of the board, is this an acceptable task on my part to convene? Let us look, let us see. And I'm going to ask legal counsel, do I need permission from the board to authorize students to wear cords at graduation, or do I have the authority to do that myself? And if so, maybe I could ask legal counsel, could I ask the board to authorize me to grant me that permission and then let us work out the logistics?
That's probably the easiest thing. I don't think that it falls squarely in terms of state law under one particular set of duties and responsibilities. So unless there's a policy that indicates, I don't think it's a clear legal issue. But I do want to point out that it is listed as an action item.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And so it probably, someone's going to need to articulate if that's how the motion is going to go. A motion, I'm happy to jot something down.
Am I permitted to make to read it?
To suggest a motion language, and then the president can decide whether to accept that motion language and put it forward.
Ms. Dominar, President, Vice President Dahlman, are you comfortable making the motion? Authorizing the superintendent to proceed with this initiative?
Right.
And then allow us the flexibility to work
I'd like
through the
to-
logistics?
I would like to make a motion that Superintendent Ewing proceed with the decision to incorporate a bilingual chord or regalia, additional regalia to this year's graduation.
I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and all those in favor of this motion, please say aye.
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 I say aye, so I think
Aye.
that carries unanimously. There are no nays.
So you've given us some homework. So we will work on our side. We'll get the high school principals together, and then we'll get you in my office. Before you leave, if one of you can give Taryn, will you raise your hand? She's in the back of the room. She's the chief of staff. If you'll sign in with her, she'll write you the invitation to come see me. And before you leave, we can never forget to thank your teacher. Is your teacher here with you tonight?
She's back there.
So teacher, come forward, let us. And is this Mrs. Smith? Is that the?
Yes.
Okay, so Mrs. Smith, thank you for what you do each day, and thank you for the work with the students. And you're certainly welcome to come with them when they come visit us as we work out the details.
You're very welcome. Thank you for allowing us to be here, and the visit that we had from Senora Flores and Mrs. Dahlman. It was wonderful. It was a pleasure to share with you what we do there at Oñate and these wonderful, wonderful kids.
Sure.
Students, almost adults.
We're there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we'll move quickly. So Dr. Lozano and Dr. Miller-Tomlinson, you'll add this to your list of assignments. I want the deputy superintendent to note you're not included. He says I give him too many assignments, so. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you, students.
Thank you.
And now, Mr. President, the next item under my list is discussion and possible action to authorize the administration to proceed with a pilot program on teen suicide prevention in certain schools. And so if I could ask, I know we have some folks, Dr. Lozano, can we ask some of our, the students? Okay, so our students from Las Cruces High, have I got the right school? So students, if you want to come forward first, and if you will allow us, we'll do the same thing. We're going to let you talk to us first about your presentation, your idea, and then I'm going to engage some content experts here in the audience to assist us as we work through our process, and then I'll formally ask the board for approval for whatever we decide as we discuss. And then Dr. Flores, I'm putting you on notice. So Dr. Flores, who is a psychiatrist, is in the audience, and he and I talk quite regularly. I thank you for your service to the superintendent. And Dr. Flores is going to guide me as we go through this. And as you start, I'll just tell you, I certainly believe in your cause, and my doctorate is in counseling and psychology. And so you're in my field, although my claim to fame is always being a foreign language teacher. I wouldn't make a very good, I'm looking at Dr. Psychiatrist, because the teacher in me wants to tell you, here's the issue, here's what you do, now move on. And that's not what counselors do. So teacher and students, if you would take the podium, and Mr. President, with permission, may they begin?
Absolutely.
Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Superintendent, my name is Sylvia Bustillos. I'm the Enlace teacher at Las Cruces High School. And this was a class assignment. Many of you are familiar with our Enlace conferences, to which you are invited every spring and fall. And so we were tasked with, or I tasked them with, writing a research paper. Because several of these students are level 2 and level 3 students, I encouraged them to take action. I soon regretted my task, because they will explain what this became and why it became what it did. So at first, the Enlace students are going to speak, and then some of the students who participated in the program that we had We negotiated with our principal, Mr. Carrillo, who was very generous in working with us and getting something done. And what has since evolved from that day, because it's changed a little bit, and we've done even more research and more work. So they're going to explain to you what's happened since and what we were doing.
Thank you for the work you do as a teacher very much.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, and Mr. Superintendent. My name is Brenda Herrera. I'm speaking in behalf of the Las Cruces High School Enlace students. Enlace is a program where we do community service and action research. This past 2 weeks, we tried to take action, but we were stopped. Let me ask you this. Have any of you ever been impacted by suicide? No?
Yes.
As you may know, we were impacted. This is why we came up with this pilot program called Lifeline Day. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Leslie Chavez. I just want to read some statistics that we found shocking to us. An American dies by suicide every 12.3 minutes. In 2016, NM had the second highest suicide rate in the U.S. Since 2006, teen suicide has risen 20%. Suicide is now the 10th leading cause of death in America. Homicide is 15th. For young people 15 to 25 years old, suicide is the second leading cause of death. We've researched, so there's this program called REACH. They do it in San Luis Obispo High School. They found it very successful. They do mindfulness. They help students cope with stress. Now I want to introduce one of my classmates, Sophie. She participated in the program, and she was a very close friend to Dante Berkowitz.
Hi, my name is Sophie Cord, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Las Cruces student body, and most importantly, on behalf of the friends and family of Dante Berkowitz. The students involved felt like Lifeline Day was a necessary way to shed light on suicide prevention and help students become educated on a tough subject that does not get enough attention. We hope to get your permission to retry Lifeline Day next school year. We hope to get your permission to create a memorial garden with seating arrangements that honors recently deceased teachers and students. And before senior year ends, we hope to get your permission to allow a chair at graduation for Dante and allow his father to receive his diploma. Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Ariana Rosas, and I just want to wrap this up by adding a comment from a TED Talk video that we watched. So it was basically about a water fountain that the water was contaminated, and it was at a school, and 9 out of 10 students that go drink from that water get sick, and they are sent to the doctors, and they give them antibiotics. And I just want to ask you guys if you guys will continue to give us antibiotics or actually let us help you fix that water fountain by letting us have our program in September during Suicide Week, having a memorial garden at our school, and giving Dante's dad his diploma. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lucas Donahue. During the suicide day, not day, but prevention day, we had a presentation by a member of the board, and I actually wrote a letter. I'm going to skip a little bit of the letter. It's kind of a little harsh. I was in a bad mood. But I just have one request. Let us talk. Let us make a change. Students across LCPS were allowed to get up and leave class to support the 17 lives lost in the Florida school shooting. To me, being exposed to the being exposed to the aftermath of such a horrific event as a school shooting is pretty traumatic. Yet downtown allowed students to leave class in the thousands to be immersed in a traumatic situation. Fun fact for you, LCHS has had more suicides than school shootings. I know, it's hard to believe. So saying we can't expose the school to a harsh subject is just kind of, last year, the school lost an amazing soul, and we were completely overwhelmed by the loss. We didn't have the option to be protected from it. It happened. We found ourselves in the heart of a very, very tough situation where we had no preparation or training on how to handle a situation like that. Then the fact that you shut us down when we're trying to help people, wow. The program could have helped prepare us for such a gruesome experience, such as losing an individual who meant so much to so many people. I didn't know where to go, who to turn to, or who to talk to. I was very lost, and so were the hundreds of other students who were shocked by the loss of a peer. After the gun scares we had at LCHS, students felt very strongly towards the walkout, and they had permission, even support from the same people who shut us down. After Dante left us, we all felt very passionate about the suicide prevention, yet we got shut down. Nice. Thanks. I'm 18. I pay taxes. You guys work for me. Don't pretend you support us. You aren't fooling anyone.
So let me say, first of all, to you, wow, good. I'm going to let some of you guys write some of my speeches and release them to the press. First of all, I think I owe you an apology if we shut down a project that you were doing at your school from my building. That's certainly not my belief system and not the way we operate. I firmly believe that principals are in charge of their own school building. So your principal is truly the one in charge of you. And I'm looking, is Mr. Carrillo back there? So we always will defer back to the principal. I think as adults, sometimes we do become too protective of you. And you're right, you need to talk, and we need to listen to you. Now, 25 years ago, when I was in grad school studying psychology, one of the things we were taught is never to glorify a suicide, and that's probably in the minds of some of our counselors and mental health care professionals. And so if you will allow us, I'm going to ask you to stay where you are, and I'm going to engage, Dr. Lozano, will you go to the podium and assist me? So we're going to engage Dr. Lozano, and then we're going to bring Dr. Flores up, and we're going to actually have a conversation, and I'm going to ask them some questions of what we could do that would still allow your project to continue, but would meet the criteria of what a psychiatrist and other mental health experts are saying is acceptable with you. And then we'll ask the board for formal approval for me to then allow the principal and the staff to work with you on your project. And so, Dr. Lozano, are you going to work with Dr. Flores? Are we working with one of our social workers?
Yeah. Okay. So, Mr. President, members of the board, and Mr. Superintendent, first, I'm very honored that, again, we have students advocating for what they believe is right, and I applaud that to the teacher, to the program for bringing on a subject that is obviously something that we know as a district, as a nation, really, we have to address. So I really applaud their efforts, and I was happy to see that two of my former students were part of the group, so really happy to hear that. With that said, let me introduce you to Julie Kirkus, who is our health services social worker, Ms. Amy Helmerite, who is our coordinator assistance program, and Sonia Saiz, who is our district coordinator of psychology, social work, and counseling. With that, I think they prepared a statement.
Sure. So first of all, ladies, thank you for what you do every day. I tried your field, and there's no way that I can handle all of the issues you do each day. So thank you so much for what you do. And I don't know if the students realize, but they handle multiple situations. And sometimes when I call, I'm looking at Amy. The other day I called, and it was, I think, a month before we had an appointment available. Dr. Flores, I think we could probably get into your office faster. So we're working here, and they're really trying to assist, whether it's students or employees. So first, from my chair, thank you for what you do. I appreciate you very much.
Good evening, Board President, Board of Directors, and Dr. Ewing. We thank you for the opportunity to be here. And first, we want to thank our students personally for their valiant efforts to support suicide prevention and awareness. We as a district have suicide prevention and awareness programs in place. As a community, continuing our efforts to prevent suicide and spread awareness, we must be thoughtful, well-informed, evidence-based, on research, on best practice, in order to be most effective and in order to do no harm. We encourage and support open dialogue related to this public health crisis in the spirit of doing no harm and moving forward as a school community. We ask that authorization of this specific pilot program be tabled for further discussion and interest in all stakeholders. We welcome the opportunity to join together with students in this conversation, empower students to take action, and to include students as leaders moving forward to this important topic. Thank you.
And so now, is the Enlace teacher, where's my teacher? So can I ask you, as I was listening to the students, is their project for now, or was their project, someone mentioned doing something in September during the National Suicide Month? So are we wanting to do something this spring, or are we planning something for September?
So again, working with our principal, Mr. Carrillo, he very graciously, we worked out, as long as there were parent permission slips and kids who had already been through the process, we were allowed to hold the program, but in a very limited way. Miss Ice was there and Miss Kirkus was there that day as well. So to do it again would not be, I guess it wouldn't be beneficial because they've already kind of been through the process.
So you're really asking for us to look for September?
Right. September is National Suicide Prevention Month, September 9th through the 13th. And actually, with the academies at Las Cruces High going on, I presented to the leads and to our principal. I mentioned it to Mr. Carrillo that maybe this could be something we work on as a school-wide venture next year. And again, with the guidance with central office and this, and we mentioned one of the research-based programs that is working in California that use mindfulness, which we've all been participating, well, some of us have been participating with the district. Something that works and something that the students can use and go forward with, because this was their idea. It wasn't my idea. This is something they wanted to do and act upon.
Sure. So I'm looking, Dr. Flores, would you mind coming to the podium? Dr. Flores, thank you for giving us your expertise free of charge tonight. Don't send me a bill.
I wasn't told that, Mr. Ewing.
I just first want to say thank you for the support you give to the Las Cruces Public Schools in the community. And if for nothing else, thank you for being my friend. He's one of the few people I can talk to, and he doesn't tell anyone anything. So Dr. Flores, as you listen to us and as you listen to our mental health counselors, would you be willing to work with us as we begin to figure out what would be the best plan of action for their activity in September? And do you see any harm coming if we proceed with an activity as long as it's under the supervision of the medical profession and our certified social workers, counselors, and psychologists?
Yes, Mr. President and Madam Vice President, thank you for allowing me to participate with this. And Senora Flores, I hope I picked the right jacket to come here. But a lot's been said, and I would echo what's been said about the problems of suicide and the incidences of suicide in the country, and particularly in age groups. And it's clear that someone mentioned this is a crisis, and I think it's a crisis for the young people. And in many ways, it's different than I think our generation, when all of us were in their shoes, in their places. I think if you really look at what's being talked about in terms of the stresses that the current generation adolescents have to confront, it is different. And for that reason, I think the approach to address it has to be somewhat different. And I certainly support open dialogue in this problem. It's a sensitive issue. It's something that people don't like to talk about this, because if either you could be supportive and sensitive, but if you've been touched by this problem, it's a devastating situation to be a part of. I take care of patients, the survivors of suicide situations, and it's devastating, and it's something that they never get over. You can ask a survivor of that. So obviously it's important. What I would strongly support is seeing the young people here talk about this. What we're finding out in their generation, different than our generation, is that they're finding out that this problem for teenage suicide started to peak around 2013, 2012. And something happened at that time. And so the researchers are asking themselves, what happened that made it so different and difficult? Was it poverty? Was it parental problems, home problems? Bullying, and they found out that many of us face those same challenges. with the same stressors. But what is this generation facing that we didn't have? Smartphones. And I think you probably know about this. And so anywhere you go these days, and you see our youth, instead of talking to one another, they're often talking to or listening to their cell phone. So this is a big challenge that this project is not going to fix. It's not going to stop the youth from using their smartphone. But I hope that by allowing this program to develop and to start off and hopefully spread not just at Las Cruces, but to all this district, I hope the project will encourage all the other high schools, because the kids are experiencing the same challenges and stressors. So the problem with the smartphones now is kids don't talk to one another. This program obviously is an opportunity for them to have dialogue, and I think that's what builds their character, it builds their self-esteem, it helps them to interact and solve problems. So strongly support this effort. I'll be happy to participate with that in any way that I can. September for me is too long. I think that today I know there's youth that are struggling with this. And if we hopefully can support them, these young people can get out to their friends and get on their phones. If they know somebody who's suffering, get them to the student health centers at their schools. There's counselors there. So yes, I'll be happy to participate, and I'll entertain any questions.
Thank you. Board, would you like to ask questions or to comment? I know that you do. Shall we begin with? Yeah, Ms. Delman?
President Frank. All I want to say is thank you, Dr. Flores, for your contribution to our community and for your assessment of the situation. And thank you to the students for coming in and advocating for this program.
Thank you. Yes.
Just had a comment. Thank you, Dr. Flores. But I think it's a long comment. It's very timely that we do something. I personally have been impacted within my family. I had 2 incidents. One was fatal, unfortunately. And I think possibly the social media had a lot to do with some of those that impacted my family. And I'm sure this is something that we will address. But I applaud the efforts to do something and get something going to raise the awareness and to try to prevent it. Yes. Thank you.
Yes. Senora?
Mr. Frank and members of the board, I want to applaud the students for coming forward to voice your concerns and your well, the fact that you're working on this, it's amazing that you're doing it. I realize you've lost a colleague, and I'm asking the superintendent if it will be allowed that Dante's family is able to receive the diploma on his behalf, if that would be okay. I definitely want you to continue your work, students. And I think that, but work with our staff. You see them here, and work with your teachers. Don't feel that you have to do this by yourself. And also know that nobody on the board stopped you from doing this, okay? It wasn't the board. And I understand you're being upset that it was curtailed, and I'm sorry for that. Sometimes adults make decisions because we think that's the best thing, and I don't know who it was, but you know, this I'm sorry that this happened to you. You've done an amazing work. So thank you also to my husband for being here. I appreciate it.
I'm counting on that for no bill to come my way.
Yes. Thank you.
One more thing. The debate or the opinion or belief that if you talk about suicide, that's going to push somebody into suicide. I want the audience and the board to know that that is just, the research has shown that is not true. It's just the opposite. It opens up, it breaks that stigma, that barrier for somebody who's hurting to feel that I'm not alone and that somebody cares and wants to listen to how unhappy I am. So I've heard some talk that, well, if you talk about this, it's going to push somebody over the edge. Not true.
Thank you.
Mr. President, can I just ask for some clarification on what is, I'm a little bit confused on what, is this going to be an action item tonight? One. Number two is, did I hear this clearly that the teachers asked us to table this discussion? Because, so I heard that they asked us to table this discussion, which is different from what the students are asking, correct? And then, so I'm just trying to kind of replay this a little bit, and then if this is an action item, is there 2 action items on this, or is this 1 action item? I know that they were requesting the diploma, and I think that should be a separate action item, and I'm not too sure if it needs, I'm just asking for some clarification, if you can give me the whole
So
thing.
there will be a motion that will result after this discussion.
Okay.
Okay, and it will not address, what might happen at the high school graduation. Okay, that is a separate item that I think have to be dealt with at the school, the particular school.
Okay, and that's not an action
And
item.
yeah, and I
tonight.
agree with you. I think that we're seeing dissent on this issue.
Okay.
Okay, and that's something we're going to have to consider, when we come to vote.
Yes, sir. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Mr. President, if I could engage legal counsel. Listening so far, to me, this is a curricular activity, and I'm going to argue curricular activities are under the purview of the superintendent. Do I need board approval? Since we're calling this a program, would you feel more comfortable for me to solicit? Or do I have the authorization by law to proceed anyway, based on it being a curricular activity?
Mr. President, Superintendent, I think this, if I may, I think this is out of our
Jurisdiction?
our authority.
I
as
think
a
it
school board.
resides in my office, and
And
because
so
I believe it's a.
And although I really appreciate the students coming forward, I encourage the school district, and whether that be the superintendent working with staff. I believe this is out of our authority as a school board.
President Frank and members of the board, Dr. Ewing, I think that the board can certainly make policy expressions regarding suicide prevention. I think that the curricular particulars is an administrative issue. I think it was right to put it on the agenda. It is noted as an action item. President Frank, I don't recall the specific agenda language that was being considered, but I think the particulars need to be addressed by the administration. I think the board can ask for a report on that. I think the board can express essentially a policy priority, that this is an issue of priority and are wanting to see it addressed. But I think how exactly it plays out is curricular and should be those specifics. The board shouldn't be weighing in on the professional debate about how it should be addressed consistent with the standards in the field, mental health field and education field.
And I'm going to look to our mental health experts and say, if we were to ask you to engage with the students and to engage with, where did Dr. Flores, engage with Dr. Flores, would you feel more comfortable working with them and where's my teacher? Yes. Are you amenable to outsiders coming into your classroom and actually working with you on this project?
Absolutely.
Yes. And then I think instead of me inviting you to my office, I'll just come to your classroom. Can I have an invitation? Absolutely. All right. And I will bring you candy bars. And we can sort of celebrate your work together. So first, let me ask you, are you amenable to us continuing dialogue to figure out what this ultimate end product could look like with input from all of you in your respective fields as social workers, counselors, and
we're more than amenable. I mean, we emphatically encourage it, and we're welcoming and very excited to work with these young people on this. We're so proud of you for taking a leadership role, and we just want to ensure that we can be a part of it and as best as possible keep our kiddos safe.
Okay, so now are there any other students who want to talk? Because you said to me, let us talk. Did I miss anyone when you were talking? Does anyone else want to? Are you comfortable with everything we're doing? So I think what I'm going to say, Mr. President, with permission, Madam Vice President, I'm fine authorizing the program to proceed. Staff is more than amenable to work with you. Dr. Flores has agreed to offer his services pro bono. And so, throw my Latin phrase in there. Okay, that's a deal. Mr. Carrillo, I'm looking back there. Are you okay with our discussion so far as the principal? Okay. And then, yeah, sure.
The only other thing, I really appreciate that the program might be used, but we want to do more for Dante.
Okay.
And we were hoping, I mean, the diploma is a very big thing, and we want Robert, his father, to receive it for him and have a chair open for Dante because he was very involved in our school. He did track and soccer and cheer and wrestling and choir and dance and athletic training. He did everything. He was very well known. We all loved him so much. Everybody knew him. So we really want him to be honored that way. And we're not glorifying his suicide. We're just glorifying the child that he was, the guy that we all adored.
You're going to be missing him anyway. You're going to be thinking of him anyway.
Exactly. Every
You're
day.
all going to be looking for where his chair is anyway, right?
Every day.
Mr. Carrillo, do you have any objections to any of this?
I'm aware of this, but we already have discussed at the school.
You want to come to the microphone so we have you on the record?
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. Just real quick, and I think this will help this part of it. We have already discussed the graduation committee at Las Cruces High School of setting a chair for the young man. The decision whether we will present the diploma to his father or not, we have not spoken to him, and we wanted to talk to him.
Sure.
That's a very personal issue I felt with him, and we want to get his input as to how he would like us to handle it, whether it's to present him the diploma or do it in another manner. We have not contacted him yet. It's in the process because, you know, it's me barely getting there. We're working on all of that, but the chair for the young man will be there, and then after we speak to his father, we'll go with his wishes, okay?
So I completely echo his. I see you looking, and we don't want to embarrass. Is Dante's dad back here? So just first of all, I don't even know what to say to you other than, if nothing else, look at what beautiful children are thinking of your son and your family. I am more than amenable to do whatever we can do to make that pain just a little bit less for 1 minute in one day as you reflect on your wonderful son's life. So we will certainly agree to whatever the parents are expressing that they would feel comfortable along with the principal. There's never going to be a doubt that we wouldn't support that at all. I think we'll let Mr. Carrillo meet with you in private if that's okay. I don't want to ask you to come forward and talk to us in public, but whatever your wishes are, and then students, I just have to say to you, so parents are very different. You know, once they have you, they never sleep again. They worry about you all the time. They think different things. They go through all the list of names. You know, there are 4 of us. My mom calls all 4 of our names, no matter which one she's talking to. So what we want to do is just respect the wishes of the dad and the mom. So what we'll do is let the administration reach out to the parents, and will you agree with me to respect whatever his wishes are?
Of course.
And then we will follow whatever the advice is. And I'm looking, Mr. Carrillo, are you over there? So are you okay with everything that we've discussed? So based on that, Mr. President, I don't think we have an action item, but I think all of you will be with me at graduation, and so we will see that chair, and we will all be shaking your hand, and we will all be holding everyone in memory that day. So I think, is there anything else you want
I
to?
do have one more request. One thing that we have been talking about through the program afterwards is some type of memorial garden for not only just Dante, but other people that have passed, like other teachers, and we've lost 4, Susie Jeffers,
Jen Sheeran.
Jen Sheeran,
Ted Hendy had cancer, Janelda Richardson.
so maybe not just memorial, but
there's
just
a lot of
an
So
honorable
why don't
garden.
we let
of
all
some
of that take place as you work with our content experts, because they're going to guide us on what they think, and then Dr. Flores can be there as well. And so I think you've given us some homework instead of us giving you homework for once. We'll bring them in your classroom, And then I think we need to bring some research articles to you and let you do what we do every day, and that's read and see what the research is telling us, what would be the best item. The easiest one tonight, I think, is the diploma, and then absolutely, you've heard our wonderful counselors, social workers, and psychologists say they're more than welcome to work with you in your classroom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. President?
And one of the students asked if we were impacted by this, and the answer for me is yes. And you know, I can't imagine that sweeping the problem of suicide under the rug is somehow a good thing to do. I think, you know, we do need to send a message, a very clear message that we care. And I hope we did that tonight. I was also wondering if we could, you know, have a plan where we get feedback on how this initiative progresses.
So I'm going to look to the students after we decide our program, if you would be willing to come back and present to the board again on, you can actually tell them what you learned from what we've put together and give some good constructive feedback for us. Are you okay doing that? Yes? Okay. Dad?
I don't want to get, but there's something that probably should be said. There are all these students, adults, maybe happy the Memorial Day, but don't think that they contact part of my family. Enough has been done to support them. Even in counseling, with all due respect to my colleagues, because I'm a therapist, know that statements were made in workplaces, in archery in the school. I think they're telling you through their actions and their words that they need something now. Okay?
I hear you, and we need to heed that advice. And so we'll have some folks over there, and even though your activity might not be until September, we need to start, where's Dr. Flores? He said start the conversations today.
Professionals can do even before we send them off.
Sure.
With Ultra.
No, I completely agree. So we'll be
you.
there. Thank you, and again, thank you guys for coming tonight.
Yes.
Quite brave of you, so thank you so much.
Superintendent?
Yes, Mr. President, permission to
Can you
move
carry on?
Yes, sir, thank you. And now I'm going to call forward Mr. Montoya, Assistant Superintendent of Operations in High Schools. Mr. President, Madam Vice President, members of the board, Mr. Montoya is going to talk to you about a proposal that we will bring forward at the next board meeting in accordance with board policy in naming the Las Cruces High School baseball field. And so we just want to make a public announcement tonight. We'd like for the board to just hear our rationale and our discussion. We are following the board policy and the regulation, which requires us to have a 30-day waiting period after we receive this information. And Mr. Assistant Superintendent, we will let you start.
Well, that's kind of weird, isn't it? President Frank, Madam Vice President, Mr. Ewing, thank you for allowing me to come up here. It was brought to my attention in the last couple of days that we would like to recognize my former coach. I was a baseball player at Las Cruces High School in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. And to recognize a gentleman that has been in our program, was a part of our Las Cruces Public Schools for many, many years. And we would like to recognize him by starting the process to name the Las Cruces High School baseball practice field the Dave Graham baseball field. And I would like to, he doesn't know this, but I'm going to bring Gil Padilla. He's the one that's kind of here spearheading. He's our head baseball coach at Las Cruces High School, and he's going to kind of spearhead this. And so I'd like to bring him. We've started the process, and so we just want to inform the board that we are headed in that direction. So hopefully in the next month or so, we'll bring that as a formal action item for the board to take action on.
Mr. President and members of the school board, Dr. Ewing, thanks for the opportunity to entertain this announcement. Coach Dave Graham had been with the district for something like 27 years as a baseball coach, but he is the longest tenure to be the coach there at Cruces High. But he's also been impacted where he started out as a Lynn Middle School PE teacher before he ended up going to Las Cruces High School back in the 60s. And Coach Graham is in his 80s, I think it is now, maybe early 90s. He's getting up there in age, and this is something that we're trying to push through so that we can, so that he can see his name up there on the practice field. So hopefully we can get the ball rolling and get it done.
Thank you, Gil.
Thank you.
Like I said, we will be bringing this hopefully to the next board meeting as we look at an action item for you all to take action on this. We'd appreciate it. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you for alerting us.
We will bring more information and actually ask for your formal approval. And now I'm going to look, Chief of Staff, Ms. Taryn Landine is going to come forward and update the board on a revision to Regulation IJOA-R.
Thank you. Good evening again, Mr. President, members of the board, and Dr. Ewing. As you all know, and we talked about this in your last meeting, the board sets policy, and the executive cabinet is charged with making sure that we have regulation that really specifies the steps that the district will take in carrying out the policy. The only revision, as you saw in your packet, to this particular policy, which is on field trips and excursions, this is policy, this particular regulation. We have the policy later in the agenda. This regulation, IJOA-R, is on page 5 of 7. It is number 8. It's highlighted there in your packet and on the screen. And it says that in extenuating circumstances where it is not possible to get board approval prior to a field trip, and this out-of-state field trips require board approval, student travel, you will be approving some of that tonight. In extenuating circumstances, the superintendent can authorize the out-of-state travel and inform the board at the next scheduled board meeting. As you all know, oftentimes things come up where students may have to attend finals or a competition or something like that, and with board meetings where we have action items, usually only once a month, we had made this change to allow the superintendent to do that. This is just to inform the board, and I stand for questions if you have any questions.
I have no questions. Board?
I don't either.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
And so, Mr. President, Madam Vice President, members of the board, and to the members of the audience, I'm going to just quickly jump down to number 12, student travel updates. I do want to update the board. Eric here tonight, I'm looking, Mr. Sheppercombe. Is Eric with us tonight, Mr. Frost? So Mayfield High School did have a group of students who were going on I think it was a robotics field trip to Alabama. Somehow the paperwork coming from Mayfield to this building didn't make it in time to be included on the agenda. And so I did notify the board president. I did authorize that field trip to proceed, and I'm just informing you today that I did exercise the authority listed in that regulation. It was a one-time extenuating circumstance. We certainly intend to follow most every time to inform the board, and then Erlinda has agreed any school that needs help with the paperwork or understanding the process to go out and work with them. Our goal is to continue to give you field trip forms as we always do, but in this one case, there was an error, and we don't want to ever punish students for adult mistakes. And instead of saying to them they couldn't go, we just authorized them to proceed.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
President,
Yes.
Dr.
Ms.
Ewing. I just for clarification, what is the timeline to submit travel request?
Sure. So for us, the first thing we want to do is make sure we can add to the agenda for the board.
Right.
And so we always ask folks to give us before the work session or the night meeting the week before during board agenda setting. We would want all that information on our agenda first. But legally, we have until, we usually say Friday, but most of the time we can post things up to Saturday. Now, for schools, we don't allow them just to have a 2 or 3 day turnaround. We ask them to give us, and I'm looking to Erlinda, how many days notice?
Like 15 to 30 days notice. So, okay, I thought I read in policy that there's 3 months. Is there?
In the regulation.
Yeah, sure. And I'm just a little concerned in regards to, not that, you know, I mean, if it's an extenuating circumstance, I definitely feel that we should approve that. But I'm just wondering if these field trips are being submitted within the time allotted.
The majority of the time, they're very early. We have some that submit for a trip in April. They submit it in August, September, as soon as they know the trip. We really haven't had any issues. Most of them get it to us very early. And normally we'll accommodate schools if they're like 15 to 30 days before the board meeting.
I know that there were quite a few this time. I think
Yeah.
there's 10 or 11.
Yes.
And I think out of the 10 or 11, only 3 of them submitted like within that time period. So I'm just wondering if they're aware of the regulation.
We work with sponsors and the principals do know, but sometimes things happen.
Some of them are like 2 weeks before.
And
So I'm just concerned about that because I do look at them and I know that some of the information on there is not sufficient. So,
And remember, regulation is established by the superintendent and the executive cabinet. The policy is by the board. We probably, as an executive cabinet, should look at the regulation to see is 3 months too excessive.
Right.
The other thing that we've talked about, I'm very hesitant to publish in the entire board packet that we put online the names of all the students, the hotel location.
yeah.
So we've started pulling some of that information back, just so that anyone who wanted to follow a student couldn't. But am I hearing from you, do you think that 3 months is too excessive?
I just think there should be clarification and everyone should know about it. Because there are some that are being submitted 2 weeks before and some that are being submitted 3 months.
Yeah, and it depends on the trip sometimes, because sometimes if they win at a state level and all of a sudden they go to national, that's a quick turnaround time.
Yeah.
Others it's based on fundraising, that their trip is if they have money, but they go ahead and submit the request to get approved and so on. So
On this particular one for Mayfield, was that something like that? Was that
well, it
just
was
on a
more of
spur the moment?
it was an adult error. Communication got lost in that process. Okay, and we've addressed that, but we'll continue working on communicating with principals.
Okay, and now, Mr. President, Madam Vice President, and members of the board, I'm going to ask Mr. Ellison, our Chief Financial Officer, to help me with a budget update. And yeah, would you mind coming to the podium, Mr. Ellison? And while he's coming, is Mr. Bolzano in the audience? I saw him earlier. So I just want to recognize Chris Bolzano, our lobbyist from Santa Fe, and he's driven down to be with us this evening, and thank you so much for coming.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Superintendent. Just a quick budget update. I'd like to kind of announce that we had several representatives from LCPS, from multiple departments at the spring budget workshop, beginning of April. And I think there were a number of things that we learned, and it was very informative. One of the things that was announced was that there was a increase in our unit value for the upcoming school year, and that was of $74.97 per unit. And in addition to that, that'll bring our unit value to a total of $4,159.23 for the upcoming school year. In addition to that, there were some changes in the funding formula and how program units are calculated. And so as we move forward, there's going to be a couple of different changes. The unit value calculation, the program cost or program unit calculation has been pretty constant, and it is starting to evolve. One of those items is the at-risk indicator or the at-risk index. And so that for us this year has gone up, which has more weight. And one of those, right now it was calculated for the upcoming school year at 0.08. And that's a multiplier of our enrollment. And so that's an increase from the prior year. But in looking at that and working with our student information system and STARS reporting, we feel that that number actually, based on some of the other school districts with similar demographics, may have been a little low. And so we're going to look at that and really start looking at other areas in our STARS reporting to increase that. It's possible that it could be as high as a 0.1, but there are some other items that go into reporting in that calculation of our at-risk index. And just kind of to give you some context, if we went from a 0.08 to 0.1, that would increase maybe about 481 program units, which could equate to about $2 million in funding. And so we're really going to start focusing in on our STARS reporting and some of the information that goes to the state to make sure that we're capturing everything that we're due from the state and as far as funding goes. So we're really going to be focusing in on that. And so one of the things also is that we are, this year, we also had a slight decrease in enrollment. And so that's another factor that we're looking at. Our enrollment is projected to be pretty flat with a slight increase over the years. But this year, we also saw a slight decrease in enrollment. So that will impact our program units in a negative way as well. And so we're continuing to really study these numbers and look at it. And we're also in the process of implementing or actually doing calculations of the mandated pay increases that we have. And so there was a minimum salary that was established for certified level 1, 2, and 3. And then there was also an average of 2.5% pay increase for that same group of certified level 1, 2, and 3. And then an average of 2% for all other employees in the district. And so as we work through that, we currently have bargaining going on with our NEA partners, and we're looking at salary schedules to accommodate a pay increase that will comply with the law. And we're also working with CSEC, or will be working with CSEC on their pay increase as well as the other employees in the district. And so, so as we do this, we're really trying to focus in on what those costs are going to be. And then also our HR department is working with, and they'll be having meetings to go over all the employees in the district. And they'll go through the meetings of, which employees are going to, basically we build a position inventory at each school. And into that inventory, we decide, which positions the principals have. And our instruction department builds a staffing allocation based on a formula. And so they're working through that and talking to the schools. So teachers, basically there's an allocation to each school on the number of teachers that they will get in addition to the add-ons for AES and bilingual and SPED and things like that. So we're really working through all those numbers right now, and we hope to have some firm numbers as far as positions and salary dollars and the cost of those increases in the early part of May. But we just kind of wanted to give you a quick update of where we were at with that. And so I stand for questions on budget update.
Any questions on this? I have a couple of questions.
Okay, Mr. Frank.
I'm wondering if there is a mechanism for the community to provide input into the budget.
There is, Mr. Frank, and Matt, Bill, a little early. We had it on later on down the line, and when I got to the Finance Committee meeting minutes. But there is a survey that has been open, and it's open to the community. It's open to students, parents, teachers, anybody in the Las Cruces district, in the Las Cruces community. and even outside the community as well. And it's in English and Spanish, and this is the first year that we've done this. There's 8 questions, and so if you go to our website, you can follow the link, and it will be open through Friday. And we are asking everybody to participate and take the survey. And really, we're asking some questions in there as far as your familiarity with some of the initiatives that the district is engaging in, as well as how important you feel those initiatives are, and how important you, and ranking those in a number sequence of the importance. If you had to pick one, if you had to pick two. And so we're really getting that feedback. And so far, we've had close to 800 respondents. And so we'd really, appreciate if we had more than that. And that will become part of the budget submission. We will summarize that survey. And it'll give you an idea of some of the things that were important to the community and to students, parents, and different groups like that. And we take that input into consideration as we build the budget, as well as some of the other input that we've received from the Board of Education, from the Executive Cabinet, from the principals, and we take all that into consideration as we build that budget. But this is a very important mechanism, and so we really encourage anybody to that wants to go ahead and take that survey. The last question is the hardest, and there's only 8 questions, and so if you can get through 8 questions, we'd really appreciate it.
Great, that's great.
Yep.
And, I'm just wondering, how much time do you anticipate that the board will have to study the budget? Because it's a huge document, and, we need as much time as possible. And how much time would you anticipate that we will get before we have to, make a decision?
Right. And so we anticipate a minimum of 2 weeks. And so in addition to that, we plan on summarizing the budget into a budget packet, a formal packet, which we haven't done in the past. And we'll have information as far as the things that we took into consideration as we built the budget. It will have some charts that summarize different components of the budget, as well as a summary of the survey and some other items that will help review the budget. I think in the past, it's been basically a long list of account strings and numbers, which really, even I couldn't decipher that without some help. And so we really were trying to put together a formal packet that will go. And we hope to have that in place, and the majority of it completed by the time we do the town hall meeting, which will be towards the end of May. We haven't scheduled that yet, but we will schedule that here soon. And so we initially were thinking that we would do the budget approval at the May 15th meeting, but Mr. Frank, in discussions with you, and some of the delays that we've had from the Public Education Department and some of the things that we're working on now, we've pushed that to the first work session in June. And so we will have that available to the board and to the community probably by the time we do the town hall meeting, which will give you a minimum of 2 weeks, if not more time, plus the community, which we hope to have information out there before the town hall. It may not be the whole packet, but we'll have information out there for them to review before the town hall meeting. And so that's our goal.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any more questions? Board? Well, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ellison.
And now, Mr. President, Madam Vice President, members of the board, and to the members of our audience, the next item is the School Safety and Security Task Force. Just want to announce that we are continuing those discussions. We invited one parent from every school. We invited law enforcement officials. Gabe, I'm going to look for you to help me. So we had NMSU Police Chief. We had the
Sheriff, State Police. State Police. We had Mesilla Marshals here, and
our
City of
last,
Las Cruces.
And Las Cruces Police, and then our last one is our military police on the base. So we had a conversation with all of those individuals about school safety and security. We also listened to parental input, and we also had some teachers come from schools, and those teachers were giving us, some were very simple suggestions, such as, when I take my students outside for recess, I don't have a key to the side door, and I have to use a rock to prop the door open. And so I'm looking at Mr. Stout back there, who has a key to every lock and a nail in every building in the district. We asked Mr. Stout to look into how can we make that easier and more simple for teachers so we can keep all doors locked. We also talked to them about what we've asked our principals to do already, and that is to fortify their buildings as best they can. And each of them has that own responsibility to do that, knowing that each building is different. We're going to reconvene the task force for a second meeting. We're going to tell them what we've done so far based on their conversations with us, and then we're going to tell them what our plans are going forward. It's not something that we have time to wait. It's something that we must do immediately. And so we are committed to that work. We're also looking, as we sell our bonds in the bond election that just passed, we will begin using some of those first bond sales for safety and security updates in some of our buildings. We've also asked all principals to do some type of barrier in the front of their school, whether that's a desk with an individual working or whether they've put bookcases up directing you to the front office. Some schools have beautiful barriers already in place where you can only go into the office, and then some schools are wide open. And doing all of that, I'm looking at Ms. Irma. She has constantly reminded me, even when you do that, clerical staff are still the first line that you encounter when you come into an office. So we continue to think through all of those proposals, and we will have our meeting. We're emailing parents now, and we'll set that up in the coming weeks. Once we hold that meeting, I will update the board again on what was discussed. I don't want to give specifics just in case anyone is thinking of doing something nefarious in a school building. I don't want them to know where any of the weaknesses are. I certainly want to give a thanks to all of those law enforcement officials and agencies who came and participated. I also want to thank the parents who came to the first task force meeting and offered some very genuine comments, as well as the teachers who showed up. And now, Mr. President, Madam Vice President, members of the board, I'm going to call on President Alberson from NEA Las Cruces for your report. So, President Wendy, different from Dr. Wendy.
That's right. That's right. Don't get us confused. I have the Y. Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Superintendent, and of course, all of our colleagues. I just want to say I am so proud of the student advocacy in this room. Of course, as professionals, we advocate for students all the time, but it is refreshing to see students advocating for themselves. So Thomas and all of your all of your colleagues who have come today to have their voice heard, that it is just incredibly refreshing. We met all last week for interest-based bargaining. Sitting in these seats today is very torturous after many days of sitting in seats, but the conversations were very productive. We had facilitated bargain with people who came in and helped us to have really strong conversations and building those relationships and collaboration. It's very different than traditional bargaining where we're going in and saying, this is what we want and you're going to give it to us. It was really about collaboration. So some things are going to be hopefully big wins that will bring relief to our teachers, and some things will be continued relationships as we move forward to make Las Cruces Public Schools the best place to work and for students to grow. As you know, watching the news across the country, teachers are hurting. And we're still working in the bargaining process, and hopefully we can bring relief, because we know, of course, insurance costs are going up and cost of living is going up and teachers are hurting. And I feel like we have a great team who is committed to bringing support to our schools. We are meeting with Dr. Wendy on Friday, actually, to begin the conversations about professional development. I think at the work session I announced that we are going to have a pathways to professional development. David Morales is going to spearhead that. We'll take some time this summer to organize that and see what that looks like, but we would like to work, of course, with the district to make sure we're not double ditching and that we are double dipping. We don't know what that is. This is when I go off script.
Now remember, you started at 6:30 this morning, right?
Five. I was working on Dr. Lozano's homework, so yeah. My
Dr.
brain is
Lozano.
done. So we want to make sure that we're working collaboratively and that we aren't working against each other. And you know, we might fill different needs, but we are looking forward to having those conversations. So I do have Dr. Tony Hull was going to share a little bit about a video. Did anyone have any questions for me before I go back?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'd like to introduce Dr. Tony Hull. She is the principal from Lynn Community Schools.
Hi, everyone. Mr. President and members of the board and Dr. Ewing, just a quick, I just wanted to set up the video. I didn't even know this was happening, so here I am. I wanted to be here for our Lynn student that is going to the spelling bee, and so here I am in front of you. So,
And it was all Mary's idea.
and it was all, okay. So Hal Bowman is a veteran educator and national speaker that goes to schools, thousands of schools across America every year and teaches on school culture. And we were so honored to be able to bring him to Lynn Middle School and also Las Cruces Public Schools. So we thank Las Cruces Public Schools for that. So he came and spent the whole day on Friday with our Lynn students, staff, before, during, after school, and then Saturday morning with almost 100 of our amazing educators at Centennial Black Box. And then he made a video, and I didn't even know he was going to do that. So now that's what this is about.
That's the thing in this gig, man. Like, all right, everybody. That's the thing in this gig, man. Like, every once in a while you come across a school that's just phenomenal. Like, they are positioned for absolute greatness, and Lynn Community Middle School is one of those campuses where they have everything in place. You know, there is this recipe for school success where, you know, man, it's all about great schools doing great things with great people. And, you know, sometimes I show up on campus and they're missing a few of the ingredients, but once in a while I show up and they have everything. And that's what's going on at Lynn Community Middle School and Las Cruces Public Schools. It is a school. I'm telling you, I've seen this. I've seen it so many times. I know what it looks like. This is a school that's positioned for absolute, just extraordinary success. They have everything. You know, they have all the ingredients. They have this amazing all-star, like rock star leadership team in place. Phenomenal teachers in place. I got to work with their kids, incredible kids. So on Friday we did a Be the One event at Lynn Community Middle School. It was like Be the One mixed in with a little bit of Teaching a Rockstar stuff. And so I got to work with the leadership team, the teachers, all their student leaders, 6th and 7th grade. Man, it was awesome. We did it before school, and then during school we had events going on. After school we put teachers and kids together, and it was magical. It was emotional. It was awesome. And then on Saturday we did Teaching a Rockstar at Centennial High School in the Black Box Theater. But listen, that campus might be like one of the most beautiful campuses I've ever seen. It was breathtakingly beautiful. It'd be incredible. And all those folks there were amazing. You know, that's the thing about Saturday Teaching a Rockstar events. If you've been to one on Saturday, you know only the crazies show up. Like teachers that are
Excellent. So, Dr. Hall, thank you for everything you're doing at Lynn and Mesilla Valley Leadership Academy. I think we're asking you to work 2 jobs for 1 pay. So 3 jobs, all right. So Mary's advocating for you. So thank you so much. And now Mary, are you coming forward, or I'm going to Miss Irma. Miss Irma. Okay, so Mr. President, with permission to continue.
Let's continue.
So President Valdespino, do you have any remarks this evening?
Mr. President, while she comes up, can I
Yes.
say something real quick? I just wanted to tell Dr. Hull that I shared this on my this video on my Facebook, my Las Cruces Public School Facebook. I had over 4,000 views. and my phone was blowing up. I had to turn off the notifications on my phone because I had to work, and so it was going crazy with all the hearts and all these things that were coming up. So I just wanted to tell you that you broke my phone. But the other thing is, and before Ms. Irma comes up, is that I hope you're able to stay. I want to talk a little, if you're able to stay, I want to talk a little bit about it on my board report. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Irma.
Ms. Irma, thank you.
Mr. President, members of the board, and Mr. Superintendent, I too was amazed and touched by the students from Las Cruces High School and their advocacy. It's amazing that we have such talented students, very skillful, and they have quite a way of expressing and touching our hearts. And I was just amazed. And I almost cried, but I didn't. And I like to thank the teacher. I think she's gone. What an amazing job she has done. And but it's not just her, it's all the teachers at Las Cruces High, all the teachers throughout the district that do such an amazing job with our students. Next, I would like to I wish Mr. Efrain Torres was here. I didn't know he was going to receive that award, and I was thinking to myself, how many of us would have climbed into the dumpster to get what a child's, what is a retainer? Not many of us would do that, but I've known Mr. Efrain Torres for many years, a very humble individual, hardworking, and he does what he is called to do. So I just wanted to echo that I'm just so proud of him, because again, how many of us would have gone into that dumpster to get a child's retainer? Not many of us would have done that, but he didn't hesitate to do that. And again, that's just the kind of person that he is. I think he's been working for the district for many, many years and has been of service to Highland Elementary and the community, the children, the parents. I like to say that I had a very busy afternoon, but a very productive afternoon. It was quite enjoyable meeting first with Dr. Wendy and talking about professional development for our classified staff. We went through many ideas, and we want to be more inclusive in professional development. Of course, first and foremost, our educational assistants, but also our other support staff as well. So we tossed some ideas around, and before I left, I told Dr. Wendy, my goodness, you've got a big chore ahead of you. But but it's valuable that this district does recognize the importance of professional development for our classified staff. So we're going to be more inclusive, and we tossed around many ideas. Then I had the pleasure of meeting with Ms. Tiffany Gomez and Mr. Montoya and Ms. Heather Kingery, and to discuss concerns that are out there. And this year we do negotiate not only wages and allowances, but our whole agreement. And I have proposed that after we are done with negotiating the whole agreement, which we go page by page, that the principals and the assistant principals get an intensive training in that, along with our directors and coordinators, anybody who does supervise classified staff. And maybe our board would enjoy visiting or attending some of those sessions, because I look at the agreements that were negotiated 20-some years ago, and I look at what we have now. It is amazing what we have been able to negotiate together collaboratively for the good of our students and our classified staff. So again, I did enjoy my afternoon with your amazing administrators. I think you have quite committed leaders, Dr. Ewing, so I commend you for doing what you have done this past year in selecting your administrative team. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And so now, Mr. President, Madam Vice President, members of the board, I'm going to move, I don't have any announcements. I'm going to move to the Teacher Impact Awards. I'm looking at Tara, and I don't have any announcements, right? So for the Teacher Impact Award, Mr. President, I want to, is Mr. Carrillo still here? We received an email a couple of weeks ago from the football coach, Coach Mark Lopez, over at Las Cruces High School. And so we were going to mention this at the last board meeting, and we didn't make this on the agenda. So I just want to recognize Coach Lopez and the Football Booster Club. He asked each senior to select one teacher that they've had in their educational career that has had the biggest impact on them. And then the players will be presenting that teacher with an award and reading a passage about them. And then one of those teachers will receive a $250 Pay It Forward grant to use for one of their students in need. And this was, the money was donated by the Booster Club. And so the coach has invited all board members, and I'm going to invite the staff to join me. And I think this is a Sunday. It's April the 29th.
Yes.
And it is from 3 to 5 p.m. at Las Cruces High. And so, staff, you're certainly invited, and we invite the board. And I think this will be a nice experience for the football players to be able to recognize some outstanding educators. Once we have that, we'll see if we can have that information, and then I'm looking at Paul in the back. Paul will write us a nice write-up, and we'll put it on the webpage for the work they're doing. And now, Mr. President, Madam Vice President, members of the board, and to the members of our audience, I'm going to ask Damian Willis if he'll come forward. It's my pleasure this evening to name Damian Willis as the new Director of Communications for the Las Cruces Public Schools. Damian is a both print and on-air journalist with multiple years of experience, 17, I think.
17.
Yes,
Yeah.
and he currently is the Public Information Officer for the 3rd Judicial District Attorney's Office. And first, we are most grateful that the District Attorney has allowed to release you from your work there. When I was talking to him, I said, I take full responsibility for hiring you except with the district attorney, and it was the deputy superintendent's idea if he gets upset. And so I would just like to welcome you. I'd like to ask you to come to the podium and shake all the board members' hands. And,
Absolutely.
We
Absolutely.
want to say welcome, and Damian will start Monday.
And it's a pleasure to be here. I know all of you already, so we've worked together.
Welcome back, huh?
Yes, yes. Right on. Welcome. Looking forward to working with you. That's great.
Welcome.
Terry.
Glad you're here, man.
Like it. No, I won't go to the prom.
And Mr. President, Madam Vice President, members of the board, it is 8:51, and believe it or not, that concludes the superintendent's report. And so now, Mr. President, I gladly hand the agenda back to you.
Well, thank you. And we're going to hear from our student advisor, Thomas.
Of course. Mr. President, members of the board, and Superintendent Ewing, it's, as always, a pleasure to be up here on the dais, and it very might well be my last time on the dais as I'm a senior. So, fear not, I still leave you with Cameron Castillo to deal with. So it's truly been an honor and pleasure to be up here. So with that, this evening in our Student Advisory Council meeting, we congregated together and obtained some updates from our committees, which include the Communications Committee and our Bylaws Committee. And so we got some great updates from our Communications Committee that we hope will come to fruition in the future. These include like the possibility of developing a website to get out the word of the Student Advisory Council and the great opportunity we are provided with to be able to have such a council. We also discussed upcoming applications for the council, which will be going out to all the high schools and to get more representation for the upcoming years. And lastly, from our Bylaws Committee, We have been working very diligently on updating the bylaws to represent us as a council as of right now, and we look forward to our May 15th meeting, which will be able to ratify our bylaws. And so moving on to school highlights. Mayfield's NHS has teamed up with Arrowhead's National Honor Society, and they're forming care packages for MacArthur Elementary School. And so both schools are competing to do a book drive for these care packages. And from my perspective, we're definitely winning. So Mayfield FFA just wrapped up their state CDEs, which are career development events. We brought home a lot of awards for our chapter. Point of personal privilege, my vet science team got 5th in state. We've had an ag mechanics team get 2nd, and many top 5 individuals. So we're working very hard from that. We're now working on our end of the year banquet and our awards for that. And so lastly, for Mayfield, we had a prom just Saturday, and that was a huge success. I had a great time, and a lot of my friends did as well. For Arrowhead, they had a test for their college English to get credit for that, and so I heard that went really well. They had prom recently, which I also was able to attend, and that was a great time. And they had their Arrowhead National Honor Society inductions, and once again, they wanted me to mention they're in competition with us, which we are winning. From Cruces, we got that prom is coming up, and they're really looking forward to that. And Centennial, they're having their student government elections and their Special Olympics coming up, which multiple students expressed their willingness to help with, and they're really excited with that. And both Oñate and Centennial recently got a $30,000 donation and performance from High School Nation, and so they're really excited for that. And with that, that concludes my Student Advisory Council report. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any of the board members have any questions? Mr. Jaramillo.
Mr. President, Mr. Frank, I just want to say that that this young man has been up since 6 o'clock this morning, and or somewhere in that area. Went to school all day, and many of us had a break in between. He didn't. He came from wherever he was at straight to his meeting that about 4:15 this afternoon, and is still here. So I just want to acknowledge that that this gentleman has done some of the stuff that that Ms. Albers did as well, and the long day. And so I said it wrong, huh? But anyway, I just want to say that I want to wish you well if this is your last time on the dais here, and thank you for your commitment to the student advisory. And you've done this more than once, and these long days are inevitable. And so I just want to thank you for that. So.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the entire board, Superintendent Ewing, and Mr. Armito for bringing us some great food, especially today. It was very welcome. You can do that anytime for us. It was a pleasure to see the change of presidency, and it was just been an honor to be here and experience this council and see what the board has to do. So it was great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And now we're moving on to human resources development, and Dr. Serrano.
Good evening. Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Superintendent, I'm here to give you the employee report since the last board meeting. In the area of certified, we offered 3 new offers of employment. We had 13 resignations and 8 retirements. In classified, we had 15 new employees come into the district, 12 resignations, and 10 retirements. And continuing with my new tradition, whether it be a quote or something from inspirational, I got some quotes from the internet from mindfulness, and I saw the 10 C's of success, and they are character, competence, confidence, compassion, common sense, curiosity, collaboration, courtesy, courage, and calm. And that inspired me to come up with the 3 additional C's of success here in our HR department, which I added to those we're already doing, which would be caring, customer service, and consistency. And a little quote on empathy, because I did mention that's one of the things we take pride in HR. A little quote in empathy. Empathy is seeing with the eyes of another, listening with the ears of another, and feeling with the heart of another. And with that, I stand for questions.
Any questions, anybody on the board?
Don't have any.
Okay, we have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Solano.
And now we move on to instruction with Ms. Martinez.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, and Mr. Superintendent. I bring two items for your approval tonight, and they're both calendars. So we'll start off with the district calendar for the 2018-19 school year. First of all, I want to take the privilege right now to thank a committee. I want to thank NEA and CSEC for every time I ask for members to serve on a committee, they send me the best. And so tonight I want to acknowledge Ruby Chavez, Angie Carroll, Paul Bravo, Beverly Weigels, April Engelhardt, and then we had some admin, Sean Barham, Fred Montano, and then of course Paul helped us with the calendar formatting and stuff. And without these core people, you know, they were just focused. So I'm blessed with that. So thank you to the committee. The committee was given a charge to work with certain parameters, and I want to go through those parameters. First of all, the school year, we cannot start it before the K3 Plus program ends. And as a side note, we got word we got funded for 20 sites for K3 Plus this coming summer, just to let you know. So we're excited about that. So we'll bring more information at a later date. But the K3 Plus program starts July 2nd and ends August 6th. And their grant requires 25 days, 5 days a week. So the earliest we can start would be August 7th, 8th, and so on. The teacher contract day, we have to honor 183 days. The student calendar can be 180 days or equivalent to hours, and so we calculate hours. Secondary must have 1,080 hours. Elementary schools must have about 990 hours. We work on spring break coinciding with NMSU, and this year it's the week of the 25th through the 29th. Thanksgiving, this was a request by Dr. Ewing that we maintain a full week, and this was very popular this year when we first initiated it. Then he also requested that we identify 4 1/2 days during the year for professional development. We honor all federal recognized holidays with an exception. We alternate every year between election and Veterans Day. And so this year we honored veterans, so next year will be election. And that is on November 6th. And then, of course, we also schedule graduations, and we're looking again at 2 days, May 17th and 18th. And if we get snow, then our makeup day is usually after Memorial Day. You know, you never know.
I guess so.
So we try to end school before Memorial Day, and then we start in August. So that sort of puts our limits, you know, as to what we can do. So the calendar committee took it to task, and we brought forth a recommendation. We sought input on, we struggled with identifying 183rd day for staff. We were short, so we did a survey to all staff classified on 2 options. We had over 1,000 responses, which was great on the impact. We also I did a presentation at the District Advisory Council seeking parental input and got a lot of positive comments on the calendar. We also put it on our website, and it ran for a week. And, you know, and believe it or not, it was open for a week, and they had my email, and I thought, oh, I'm going to get 500 emails. I got 6. And a lot of them were very positive, and thank you for noticing. We did capture yours, Ms. Dahlman, in terms of the report cards. So because of time, I was going to go through the list, but pretty much staff reports August 8th, and we end the last day in May on the 24th. And we've identified the spring breaks and so on with the calendar. So I take questions from the board, you know.
Well, I think you guys have done an amazing job. I certainly appreciate that. Board members, do you have any comments?
No question.
No questions.
I have one quick question.
Yes.
Is there I was asked by an eighth grader who's graduating in 4 or 5 years from now or something like that, but is there a system that we're rotating the high schools on Friday and Saturdays, or with the time of the day?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
we
just
do
wanted
that.
to, just to see, and so the ones on Fridays may be on a Saturday as they go around.
As they go around,
so-
with
or
the
vice
smaller
versa.
schools in the middle.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Unless you guys change your minds and then you want to go back to one graduation date over 5 days.
Yeah.
but-
We like the 2 days.
Yes.
Yeah, so.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Dahlman.
Dr. Wendy looked at me.
Well, we haven't done it yet, so after.
We'll know, huh?
May 19th, we may.
We'll all go through it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are we ready? I will entertain a motion to approve the 2018-2019 district school calendar.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second, and all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? This motion passes.
And we thank you, and the committee thanks you.
Well, we thank you. We
All
did
right.
the easy part.
We started this process in January, and now it's ending, but
It's big.
it took time, but it was worth it. Yeah. The next item is we're seeking approval of the 2018-19 Arrowhead Early College High School and Arrowhead the Medical Academy. And once the district report card is put together, then we work with Miss Amos and the staff over at Arrowhead, and we marry the calendar to also meet with NMSU. So the staff works 200 days, that's the biggest difference, but then we try to combine all the holidays. So the biggest changes or the biggest things that to be aware of, Arrowhead runs a summer session that begins July 2nd through August 8th, and then the kids are off for August 9, 10, the 13th, and the 14th, and then teachers are off the 9 and 10. So we try to really honor the 200-day teacher contract. All right, then they pretty well follow what the district calendar does, and then there's tweaks in there to make sure we're on the operating on the same calendar as NMSU. Okay, so with that, if there aren't any questions, we seek your approval
I
for
think
this
we're ready.
calendar.
I will entertain a motion to approve the 2018-2019 Arrowhead Park Early College High School and Arrowhead Park Medical Academy calendar. Second?
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Are you picking that up? Okay, very good. And all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And now we're going to move on to Mr. Ellison, and we're going to discuss finance. I thought we had a surprise.
Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Superintendent, the exciting subject of finance. So the first item I have on my agenda is an item that it's relatively small in its impact, but it's relatively large in how it impacts those individuals. So every year we submit a resolution to the board that approves the eligibility of part-time employees who are at a 0.5, but they work less than 20 hours, so they work more than 15 but less than 20 hours, to be eligible to receive benefits. And so by PED rules, a 0.5 employee also has to work more than 20 hours, or not PED by NIPSIA, I mean. And so what we do is we offer that to these employees. And so just to give you some numbers, we have about 47 eligible part-time employees. 37 of those have health insurance and other benefits with us. About 15 of those are the ones that work between 15 and 20 hours a week. And so for those 15 individuals, they would not be able to have health insurance through the district if we didn't have this resolution. And so, and primarily those are our food service workers that work, a few hours a day. And so we find that this is very important that the district has done as a tradition for these employees. And the total cost to the district for these 47 employees is roughly $20,000 to $25,000 a year. And so it's not a significant cost, but it's very important. So with that, I stand for questions and await your vote on the approval.
Any questions?
No questions.
Okay, and so I will find the motion first. Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve the eligible part-time employee insurance resolution.
So moved.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Then the board financial report for the year, or the 9 months ended March 31st, 2018. And so just a couple of highlights on that. Year-to-date expenditures for the first 9 months for the operational fund only were about $118.2 million. And comparing that into the previous year of about 116.9, relatively similar. This year is about 63% of the budget year-to-date expended so far, and last year it was about 62%. So total expenditures through the end of March in the operational fund are about equivalent. To give you a little bit more context on that, this year we spent or expended for the first 9 months about 72.8 of that, 72.8 million of that in the instruction fund, or about 61.5%. Previous year was about 72.4 million, or about 61.9%. And so another way to look at this, if we look at the instruction, student support services, and instruction support services, which are the functions 1,000, 2,100, and 2,200, it's a total for this year of about 87.6 million, which is about 74% or 74.1% of the expenditures so far. And so we're spending a lot of, like we should, a lot of our expenditures are in the instructional support areas. Last year, it was it was about 86.7 or about 74% as well. And so we consistently spend the large portion of our monies in the instruction support areas. Our second largest area is for the maintenance of facilities, which also is primarily the schools. And so just going to give you a little bit of context on that and some of the areas. And with that, I will stand for any questions on the financial report.
Board, questions? It appears that there are no questions.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Well, Mr. Frank, as you know, the questions all come at the Finance Committee, and Mr. Frank does drill me there. So just so you know, that we don't go without questions.
This is correct.
And Senora Flores does send me emails and ask me quite, complex questions as well.
Right.
And so we do get the questions. So
this is correct. Thank you.
That's a good indicator that we've answered them before we got here. Thank you.
Okay, and now, do you have anything else?
There is just the last item on here was the Finance Committee meeting report.
Right, yeah, the minutes.
The Finance Advisory Committee meeting minutes. And with that, we really, I kind of spoke on that a little bit. We do have a lot of conversations, a lot of questions. I think we try to provide the answers for that. It's a very open and honest dialogue. It's free-flowing. Glenn Landers was here earlier. He was our last one. He comes, and we do get some other people from NEA that show up as well. I would like to ask CSEC if they could start sending a representative to the Finance Committee the Thursdays before the regular board meeting. We would love to have you join us there. So.
Yes, and we should emphasize that this is a posted meeting. And all of the information, the packets, and it's on the web, and it's open to anybody to attend.
That's correct. It's a public meeting.
And we would certainly encourage that.
And Mr. Frank, if I may, I'd like to kind of thank two members of my staff who are here. If you allow me to do that.
Of course.
Okay. I'd like to just go ahead and thank Melissa Zuniga and Will Manning. They come into these meetings and sit there and support me. But without these two individuals, I couldn't do the job that I do. They really keep the finance office running and do a fantastic job in what they do. And I just really wanted to take a moment to recognize them and just thank them for their support and everything that they do. So.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Okay, and now we're going to have our operations report with Mr. Hawkes.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, and Mr. Superintendent. This evening, I just have one agenda item, and it is we are asking for your approval of a memorandum of agreement between New Mexico Department of Health and Las Cruces Public Schools. This is our Healthier Kids Safe Routes to School grant that we'd like to thank the Department of Health for once again funding that, and I'd also like just to thank Todd Gregory and our amazing rock star Ashley Curry, who works so hard and has done an amazing job developing this for our school and our community. So with that, this is the memorandum of understanding that comes with a $40,000 support with that. So with that, I stand for questions.
Board, questions?
No
Okay.
questions.
Okay, well then I will entertain a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding between the New Mexico Department of Health and the Las Cruces Public Schools for continued implementation of the Safe Routes to School program.
I so move.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and now we move on to board items. We're going to have a discussion of the 2018-2019 Board of Education meeting schedule.
Mr. President, may I?
Yes, of course.
So, Mr. President, Madam Vice President, members of the board, and to the members of our audience, we would like to bring, on behalf of the administration, a proposal to the board. In looking, our school year is July 1 through June 30th. And in looking at our school year schedule, we don't have a board meeting in July. And then from August forward, we meet twice a month, the first and third Tuesdays, with one being a work session and one being a night meeting. It's the administration's suggestion tonight that the board consider allowing us to bring a proposal at the next meeting in which 6 of those months we combine the 2 meetings into one meeting. So we will have a work session where we can discuss ideas, and then we will go into executive session, and then we will come back and have the night session where we can vote. It's important to the administration that the voting take place at night so that teachers can actually be here. So we're looking at, for us, the months of August only having one meeting. That's the opening of school, and as much as we enjoy being here as a group, I think I look at the deputy superintendent. You may be driving a school bus that day, but we certainly need to be out in schools and supporting schools. We're looking at the month of September, realizing that we've just started school, and we're thinking that we could go August and September with one meeting. October, we would go to 2 meetings. And then the months of November and December both have holidays in them. We have a week off for staff in November and 2 weeks off for staff in December. So we're asking to combine those meetings. Then we would certainly be amenable to meeting twice in January, February. March, we would like to only meet once with spring break on the horizon. April, we would meet twice. And then the month of May for graduation services. It certainly would help the administration if we could have one meeting instead of 2. And then the month of June, we would go back to our 2 meetings with you, if that's amenable to the board. Ultimately, we would like to look at this schedule for an entire year of one meeting, but I think to see if the board is amenable to this and to see if my staff can work and get everything ready for one huge meeting, we're asking if we could do 6 of the 12 meetings where we meet only once. We're looking at some time frames of, we don't want to certainly confuse the public. The work session being, again, a 3 to 5 work session meeting with some latitude to go as far as 5:30 to a 6:30 to be our executive session, and then to do our regular night meeting at 6:30 as we've always done. So I just would like, with permission, to ask if the board has any comments, if you would allow the administration to bring a proposal to you, any of those months that you have questions about or you would like us to switch. I tried to give you a rationale of why we were thinking that way for those months. And if you're interested, so that we can bring something for the next meeting.
So the plan is to vote at the next meeting?
Yes, sir.
On this. It will be an action item
Yes,
then.
sir.
So when would be the appropriate time to have discussion?
I'm looking at the council. We placed this as a discussion item tonight, so we can have a discussion. I just can't poll the board. So I can't ask each of you to give me a yes or no, but I can ask each of you to give me your thoughts as we pull this work together.
Mr. President, Dr. Ewing, I'd be curious, I think it's a great idea, but I would be curious how it would affect our student advisory on those days. Would they be here as well?
So we would have two options. So remember that on our normal work session discussions, the student advisors don't come. They come to our night meetings. So for them, we wouldn't impact their schooling. Now, I think the student advisors, probably, Thomas, you help me. Would you mind if I wrote a note to get you out of class 30 minutes early?
I know that sometimes students, I know actually the upcoming one, we have a student advisor coming to the work session, so I know at times they do come to the work session, and I'm sure they would not mind getting out of class.
And those are exactly the same times. We're not changing the times. And they would still have some time to meet with Erlinda. I'm looking at Erlinda. As she moves into retirement, we've given her several extra job opportunities, and so that's another one to add to your list. She's told us we can't go over so many work hours, but they would still have an opportunity to meet with Erlinda.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other discussion on this? Yes.
I have a question. Since we only get 1 month off, the board does, I was wondering if maybe June we could condense that to 1.
Yes, ma'am. We're more than amenable to that.
And possibly early in the month?
And I think we would like to ask the board if you...
June 3rd. No, I'm just...
as you, when we do the meetings once per month, do you prefer us to bring you a schedule with all the meetings the first Tuesday of the month or the third Tuesday of the month? Is there a preference? I think for staff, we prefer the first Tuesday of the month. It's easier for us to get all that preparation done, and then we have another month before. I know it doesn't look like we practice, and that doesn't look like but if you look, Bill, how many pages is tonight's material? Can you pull up?
121.
So we have 321 pages of material that staff pulled together for this one meeting, and we do this twice a month. And so, and then I look, and I'm constantly telling them, you do not have to be here at 8 o'clock in the morning, but they come at 8 in the morning and they're still here at 9:30 tonight. And so for us, from a work productivity standpoint, it certainly would be more beneficial.
Any other comments, discussion?
Senora
Yes,
Flores.
Senora.
Yeah, actually, I don't like this idea at all, personally, okay? But I understand about the workload for the staff, and I'm sorry about that, but I just feel that the board meeting and the work session allows people to come and express themselves, and when you limit it to 1 day a month, it's not enough. I like having others come. And you saw how long our meeting was today and how many recognitions we have. These meetings are going to be super stacked. And I'm sorry, I'm yawning up here today. And I don't like to be yawning. And so I feel that it might be very tiring to sit for how many hours? At least 5?
If we started at 3, I think our goal would be to finish by 8:30.
Right. So I think it's taxing. I don't like long meetings, but that's just my personal preference. And I like the combination of the work session. It's discussion should be at the work session. That's when we should hash out what we feel, not during the board meeting. The board meeting is to actually vote and get the work done. So that's just my personal opinion, but the board will do what the board will do.
Okay, so...
Any more discussion?
So, Mr. President, Madam Vice President, I think what we're going to do is bring two options to the board at the next board meeting and allow the board to have some time to have conversation. And then staff will be prepared with two different calendars, and whichever calendar you approve, we're more than happy to work whatever days you ask us to work with you.
And I just want to, Mr. President, Dr. Ewing, I want to add, I don't think this should be set in stone. If we decide that we do want to try it out with the condensing for one day and it doesn't work out, I think we should be able to change our minds and go back to.
Sure, and so I'm going to look to legal counsel. I know we have to do public notice. We do have the legal authority to change those dates, is that correct?
Right.
So if we did one and it's not productive or it's not what we thought it would be, we would be able to bring you back another calendar with dates as you're asking. And we're more happy to do that.
Okay, and we will have the opportunity for more discussion before we vote at the next meeting in, I guess, May.
Yes, sir. And
Okay.
we'll bring those. And so looking at this, at the discretion of the board, we would like to give a proposal at the May work session and then give you another week or so to have conversation. I'm looking at NEA and CSEC. We would want to ask them to weigh in as well. And then we wouldn't ask for a formal vote until the end of May at the May formal voting session.
Okay, that sounds like a good plan.
Right, and then, Mr. President, Madam Vice President, members of the board, we are required to publish an Open Meetings Act notice for 2018-19. And so what we are like to do tonight is publicly state that we are looking at changing the possibility of the calendar. And so I'm going to look to legal counsel. While we're in discussion, we still have this calendar posted through the end of June. We're safe. Yes, so we would, once we decide what the meetings would look like, then you would have to approve our official public notice that's going to be posted.
Okay.
So that ends my comments, and I'll turn it back over to the President.
Sure. We have a first reading of revised policy KCD, public gifts and donations to schools. It was in the packet, and this is the first reading. It would be appropriate to have discussion on that tonight. And I'm not sure how many readings we're going to have, but we're going to find out right now.
Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Superintendent, first reading of a revision to policy KCD, public gifts, donations to schools, as you had stated. Would you like me to go over each revision? I would be more than happy to do that, or have you all had a chance to?
It's so late.
Right, and that's kind of why I'm giving you the
there are
option.
a lot of changes in
Right,
in
there are a
that.
lot of changes, and so I'm more than happy to stand for questions or comments, or let you have discussion on particular items versus me reading all of this at this point in time.
Yeah, why don't we
Okay.
put that off until our next meeting?
Okay.
That'll be our second reading, and maybe we'll have a smaller agenda, and we'll be able to devote more time to that. And it's just so long and so many changes,
Absolutely.
I think. I don't think we should get
The only
into it.
comment I'll make on that, Mr. President, is that this revision came at the advice of our council, and it is aligning with our current regulation, and so it was necessary to make these changes because I think the policy had been in place for a while, and as you read through the changes, you'll understand why some of this makes sense, and so I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Sure.
And thank you to Dr. Sanchez. He's the one that actually put together the language on this. I just want to go ahead and recognize him for that. He had originally put this policy together, and he happened to be in the loop when we needed this revision, and he gladly stepped up and did the revision for this. So thank you, Dr. Sanchez.
Okay, was that okay with the board to,
Yeah, I agree.
we'll have an expanded discussion of that at our next meeting.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President.
At this point, we're going to discuss a revision to Board Policy IJOA. This is something that we will discuss because it's a rather insignificant kind of revision. It's just, and it will be explained right now.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Mr. President. So as you just mentioned in the prior policy, it is late and these changes are not urgent. So if you didn't feel comfortable voting on this tonight, that would not be anything that would be detrimental to us. I know that usually when you make policy change, you have numerous readings so that everybody feels comfortable with it and we can gather input. However, the two changes that we are suggesting or requesting be made to this policy. The first one is just to change the responsible office for the policy from the Associate Superintendent for Instruction to the Deputy Superintendent. Again, aligning language in the reg and the policy. The only other change is that there was a misspelling of a word in the first sentence of Roman numeral 2 on the policy. The word educational was not spelled correctly, so as
We didn't have to say that.
I'm sorry, I know, I didn't, that's okay, because I really kind of want them to move my
I know.
executive summary, because I realized today I misspelled a word on there too, so. But anyway, those are the only two changes, and I stand for questions.
Yeah, so at this point, I think we do want to take care of this item. So I will entertain a motion to approve revision to board policy IJOA.
I so move.
Second?
Okay, we have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? This motion carries.
Yay.
I do not see any old business, so we will now move to board member business, board member reports. And I think it's nice to go in order. So, Mr. Jaramillo, why don't you begin?
And I will try to be brief. I have a few little points here that I want to make. But first off, I would like to take a point of privilege and wish my son Espen a happy 16th birthday. Today was also his birthday. He sits on the student advisory council as well, and I believe he chairs the communications part of that. So happy birthday, Espen. I had the opportunity to attend many things over the last month or so, along with Ms. Dahlman and Mr. Frank. We all attended the Monte Vista Invention Convention. That was absolutely amazing. This was a bunch of science projects and inventions. A couple of my favorite ones were a little guy had invented he had a ball, and he would teach his dog how to put this ball in this thing, and it rolled around, and it fed himself. And so the dog was able to feed himself with that. And so anyway, there was really a lot of, there was another one where he could make his bed by just rolling a little thing, and so it'd roll the bed to like that, and then he would roll it back up again. So very cool inventions, and I just want to say thank you for the invitation to go to that. I also had the opportunity to attend the district advisory the DAC meeting at Lyndon Middle School. And one of the coolest things about that is I was able to participate in a mock lockdown situation, which was something that I had never done before.
Yeah, I was there, wasn't it?
Yes, yes, you were there as well. And so I appreciated understanding that a little bit more and understanding what the students go through in lockdown situations. I also want to apologize to Principal Hull. As she was talking and giving her presentation, I interrupted her and I just started clapping for her because I was applauding her thoughts regarding education and the importance of relationships. And she was talking about relationships, and anybody that knows me understands the importance of relationships. And she was still talking, and I just started clapping, and I said sorry. And I didn't get to apologize for interrupting your beautiful, beautiful presentation. But when I run into people that appreciate and understand the importance of relationships, and they're at the helm and their leaderships, it's just amazing to me. So I just want to thank you for that. You have something else in here in a little bit too. So I also was able to attend the Alameda Job Fair that was recently had, and I just want to thank the community that made this job fair such a success. I know that these interactions were very powerful to our elementary students, and I know that they made dinner time conversations. They were talking about the different things that were happening, and the point here I want to make is that this is an example of the process of education being just as much or just as important as the product. we always focus on the product and the product, but there was nothing that got taken home. There wasn't a test on this. There wasn't anything, but these kind of things like that, the process of education is vital. And I just want to thank those community members that took time out of their day to go and with these elementary students. One other cool thing, and I'm not going to be able to say how cool it is or articulate how cool this was, but I was able to go to the MVLA, the Learning Academy, Mrs. Hull's other job, through a social studies project. This thing was amazing. It reminded me, you walked into the school and it reminded me of a wax museum where students were dressed up with historical sports icons to influential people of war, social justice, royalty, I mean, all sorts of history, historical things. And you would actually go up to somebody and you could push a button and they would act out their character and tell you exactly what it was. It was absolutely amazing, and I appreciate being able to be there. This is yet another example of the process of education and not necessarily the product of that. So I just want to thank you and that leadership from MVLA. The other thing is, too, is I want to recognize Booker T. Washington. I attended their Pennies for Piggies that I thought was really cool. This is the students from Booker T. Washington Elementary collected more than $330 in spare coins and dollars to help buy socks and underwear for 500 students facing homelessness in Las Cruces. This project began back in February and was also supplemented by Revolution 120. And I want to take just a second to thank Marcy Dickerson for joining and collaborating with them, which Revolution 120 matched the students' earnings by more than twice the amount, raising more than $1,000 to purchase the socks and underwear. And I was able to attend the assembly during which it was revealed that Mrs. Miranda's kindergarten won the pizza party on that thing. So it was very exciting for them, and I was privileged to be there. Something that happened this past weekend, I was able to donate my time and my services to the Hearts for Autism run. I know that we gave a presentation earlier, but one of the things I want to say, and obviously it's a great organization and a great thing that happened, but I was able to see how many schools participate. Las Cruces Public Schools, teachers, administrators that were there and participated in this fundraising event. And I just want to take a moment to thank everyone that worked. Sometimes things in life, you reflect, and today there was a couple of things that happened at work today, and I wanted to take, and when I was talking about this autism run, is I just want to take a moment to thank everyone that has worked or is currently working with children with special needs. It takes a special person, and we have so many special people in Las Cruces Public Schools. So I just want to take a moment to thank all of them that are working with. With that being said, I'm going to prom. And so on Friday night, I will be going to the Best Buddies prom at Las Cruces High School. My wife said yes, and I will be donating my time, and also, but it's going to be a family event for us. So my wife said yes, and my daughter's going to be helping with hair and makeup that day. My son is going to be doing video and photographer for the event, and my wife and I are going to oversee the music. So I'm very excited and honored to be a part of this event. The last thing I want to, there's a couple other things, but Comcast Cares is this weekend. I will be donating my time and services to this special day, and I'll be providing music for Comcast Day this Saturday at Hermosa Heights Elementary. And if you can, please plan to attend this special event on Saturday. Now, in closing, I just want to read something. Dr. Sedano, I'm going to do a quote here real quick that I just recently came by, and it's meant something to me. But it says, I have always felt that the action most worth watching is not at the center of things, but where edges meet. I like shorelines, weather fronts, international borders. There are interesting frictions and incongruities in these places, and often, if you stand at the point of tangency, you can see both sides better than if you were in the middle. It's a quote by Anne Fadiman. I read the book recently. She wrote she's the author of The Spirit That Catches You and You Fall Down. The reason why this quote that I brought this quote up tonight is that we're going to be talking about school safety soon. It's been in the news lately, and I know that we're going to be maybe working with the city of Las Cruces to, at a work session, a joint work session, and I know there was a lot of controversy before this. And I just want to say that, you know, in school safety, we all want children to be safe in school. But sometimes our life experiences, our parental ethno-theories, and our culture defines the lens we view the world and how we see how to protect our children. I know we're going to be meeting with the city councilors soon to discuss this school safety in a joint work sessions, but I just wanted to let my fellow board members and those in the audience is that I have purposely reached out to others that might be thinking a little differently than I do on this issue. This is my way to straddle that point of tendency that Ann Fadiman talked about, but to put politics aside and make children our number one priority. This is how real change happens, and this is how we protect our students while still giving them the education they deserve. So I encourage us to look at, you know, not to, like Ann Fadiman said, we have to go, and sometimes getting to that point of tangency where things meet is sometimes hard. And I would encourage us to not stay on the safe side of, or because our children need advocates. Our children need us to go to that point of tangency and to have those tough conversations. And I will be meeting with the community members that obviously are going to have a different point of view than I am, and purposely so I can bring those those point of views and their lens so that we can make real change for the students of Las Cruces Public Schools. So, and with that, I just want to thank you guys.
Mr. President, I do not have a report tonight.
I took up your time, sorry.
That doesn't mean that I didn't do anything. In fact, I did more this month than probably the entire year. But I just thought I'd give you guys a break.
So, thank you both, okay, for those details. The thing, I mean, tonight was a very meaningful night. You know, those kids coming before us to discuss an extremely difficult issue was just, it's incredibly moving, and the kids that we saw here tonight, they are not unusual. I mean, when I have gotten out into the schools, this is what I see all the time. We have the most amazing students here in Las Cruces. So they inspire me. Mr. Castro, it is your turn.
I don't have anything to add, no.
Okay.
That's good.
Thank you. First of all, good luck to all our students that are taking the park, the SBA, or the ice station right now. We hope that there will be changes to the testing soon, but not yet. Do the best you can and don't stress about it. That's what I tell students, don't stress about it. It's not worth it. Ms. Dahlman and I had a great time visiting our 4 high school international welcome centers. We talked to the teachers, administrators, and were moved by all that they are accomplishing. For the first time, I see our ELL students getting the help they need to negotiate through high school and beyond. We found areas that can be addressed with policy, which is what we do, items that need to be translated, textbook needs, and how they connect with their feeder schools. We did not know that online classes are not in Spanish. And so, you know, they are a requirement, so I know that these students do a lot of extra work to pass those classes. Thank you to Ms. Apodaca, Ms. Bischoff at Centennial High School, Ms. Sandoval at Mayfield High School, Ms. Kilgore and Ms. Mora at Las Cruces High School, and Ms. Beltran Smith, who was here from Oñate, for their time to share their programs. They took plenty of time to be with us. The Oñate students shared their portfolios for their bilingual seals and gave us a pitch to add a stole or cord to wear for graduation. I also want to thank Aldo Lopez because signs of his being everywhere were highly noticeable, and to Jennifer Hahn for the great work of initiating this project, and of course our own Roberto Lozano as well. It is putting our kids first, and really truly they are serving intense needs of our students. I also made a short visit to the Field of Dreams. Mr. Frank was there to watch the beginning of the Special Olympics with our Play Unified students. They were having lots of fun as I left. It was a hot day. And they had this little poster, "We choose to include Play Unified." And again, I'd like to thank Mike Montoya, who initiated this project. He took it to the next level. Let's see, they were having, I read that. I made it to one parent meeting at Lynn Community Middle School, and there's lots of work to be done with the two programs coming together for next year. The integration of Mesilla Valley Leadership Academy brings change, and it will require everyone to work on it together. It will allow new and positive opportunities for both programs. And thank you, David, for manning, for doing so much work at that meeting, and Ms. Hall for all the work you're doing to make this work. Thank you. Mr. Jaramillo mentioned borders. I had the great privilege of being down at Big Bend National Park, and I must report back to our community that the borders are safe and they are beautiful, and I hope that they will remain that way. My condolences to Ms. Jo Galvan and her family on the loss of their father. Judge Galvan was a great mentor to our legal community. I talked to a lawyer recently, and she told me that he would mentor students coming out of law school, so it is a loss to our community. He was a great legal mind. Also, condolences to the family of Patsy Luran, who told me when I first ran, a school board member is there to help a constituent find the right person to answer their question. That's what we're here for. Good words from a wise woman, and condolences to the family. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay. And I'd like to thank the staff and the audience for sitting here this long. I think at this point I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries.
Thanks.